Six-pack Lapadat. We got the GOAT Matt Gary and none other than the linchpin, Red Light Rory. Um, the name's back, Rory. Sorry, I think we tried the dead dad name and it just came out. It's the year-end special. Our friend Amelia got sick. Uh, was trying to battle through the illness and day of made the decision, you know what, I'm not going to make it. No turnaround. And our boy Eric Helms, not sure. Not sure. We're going to have to see what happens if my man ends up dropping in. I'll just plunk him into the show. But as of now, he's a no-show. First, Gavin is late, and
Yep.
now Eric Helms. What is going on here? What is going on? I'm
They
bringing back those T-shirts.
they wear the same brand of wristwatch.
Exactly. Yeah, update. Check your phone. I think there's an update for your calendar app and in your alarm app and blah blah blah. All right, so
Oh
we're
man.
gonna do the year-end awards. Discuss what was 2025, and we'll do a look ahead at 2026 and some ideas we have about different nations, nationals, different possible events, and our thoughts on what might be 2026. But never ever bury the lead. Let's start off our 2025 year-end awards, and let's do let's just kick it off. Best lifters. Why not? Let's go heavy. Let's lean into this one. We'll start on the women's side. And on the surface, it might look like an easy pick. I've asked guests leading up to this, who do you think? And I've been asking, and almost unanimously, Agatha. But there are, if not, there are definitely honorable mentions that need to be mentioned. But I wonder if one of you guys has something different. I'll go first with Rory. Matt says he thinks some of his picks are going to be different than ours, so maybe I'll put a pin in those, and I'm interested. But what do you think, Rory?
Uh, that is very interesting because actually I do not have Agatha as my best overall for the women's side. Um,
Ooh.
I have actually let's talk very briefly about Agatha first. So she had a an explosive start to the year, right? So she competed 4 times in the first 6 months of the year. She won Sheffield, she won Worlds, she won Silent Worker, and she competed at a what I think is a local meet in Poland, which she also won. Um, and then she was banned by her federation. And I don't know the details of that. I don't know if we should talk about that today, but suffice to say that she now has not competed since June. Um, so hell of a start to the year. She did hit the highest good lift points of any athlete ever. She did that at Worlds, 133 point something. Like phenomenal day, but really she only had half of a season. So I find it like very hard to say that she's like the best lifter of the year when she did half of a year of lifting. However, if any other lifter had one Sheffield, one Worlds, and then just like didn't compete for the rest of the year, we would say like that's amazing, right? So like in some ways, maybe I'm trying to hold her to a higher standard than I might hold somebody else.
You
So
last year, I think we were saying Gustav was lifter of the year and based off of Worlds and Sheffield. So you're right. I mean, but I'm interested now. You got me in. Who is it then? Who is it?
So my pick for lifter of the year is Brittany Schlater. So she has
Oh,
competed six times this year. She has the second highest good lift points from the women's side, 124.75. She competed at Sheffield. She won nationals in Canada twice. She won bench nationals and she won three lift nationals. She won worlds. She won the World Games, and she did an equipped meet just recently as well. And she's gone 8 for 9 or 9 for 9 every single meet this year. And most of these competitions she's had sort of direct head-to-head competition where she hasn't cruised through any of these meets, right? And I think that that's an outstanding performance. She showed up at every single meet, and we've had a few people who have not done that throughout the year, um, and so that is my pick for female lifter of the year.
Hmm. Matt, what do you think?
First of all, I agree with Rory in everything that he said. It is not Agatha because she lifted for essentially half the season, so that's an excellent point. Brittany Schlater is an excellent pick, but I'm going to argue with that just slightly because my female lifter of the year is Carlina Tongatea. She just had an absolutely phenomenal year. Started off with a bang at Sheffield, coming in second when nobody even thought that she would be even remotely close to that, right? So she plays second there. Then she goes to Worlds in Germany and wins the 76 kilo weight class, which she had lost the year before. So she regained her title. And that's not easy to do. And the fact that she did it in fine fashion, going 8 for 9 against some stiff competition in Crane and Warford and holding her off at the end, and then going to China for the World Games and winning the World Games. Again, just in 8 for 9 fashion and just having just an exquisite performance there. It's just, I mean, those two events, I mean, just the World Games in China and winning a world championship. I mean, the World Games, again, we've talked about this, it only happens once every 4 years. It's, in my opinion, the grandest spectacle that this sport has to offer. It's the Olympics for the non-Olympic sports. And if you weren't there, you missed out, and it's hard for you to conceptualize it because you weren't there. But I'm telling you right now, it was indeed the biggest and most magnificent powerlifting event that I've ever been to. And Carlina just excelled the entire year, and she held on and never was off form, even sometimes missing squats. I mean, it's interesting, the squat being Carlina's best event, being her signature event. And she missed 3 squats this year. She missed 1 at Sheffield, 1 at Worlds, and 1 at World Games. But then being absolutely flawless coming out of her best discipline, kind of righting the ship, so to speak, and securing the dub. So for those reasons, Carlina Tongatea is my female lifter of the year for 2025.
Okay. Sorry, are you about to say something?
No, Carlina is a great pick, and you possibly haven't seen it in North America, but she's gone on a phenomenal media tear in New Zealand as well. She's been on the news, she's been on like a morning breakfast show, she's been on like radio shows.
Really?
So she's been like a really good ambassador for the sport as well lately, which is very cool as well.
I mean, she's a freaking doctor,
Yeah.
well spoken, a world champion multiple time now. Like she's,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, I love when people try to push the sport forward in the mainstream legacy media. It's one thing to appear on powerlifting podcasts, which is good. I mean, your powerlifting community gets to get a dose of you, hear from you, etc. That's great. But to help expand, hopping on these mainstream platforms also helps expand and reach people that you might not have otherwise if you're just staying within the community. So that's awesome. So I'm gonna pick Agatha Shitko. Look at I if she only competed for 2 days, if that's all she did, she won Sheffield, she won Worlds, she won Best Lifter Worlds, and guys, she weighed in 63 kilos and change and clapped half the women's division. What are we doing? You will never in your life see that again. You'll never in your life see that again. Nobody's coming in at 63 kilos and out totaling all the 63s, all the 69s, and equaling Carlina, despite Carlina being 70s. And Carlina's phenomenal. Carlina's everything Matt just said she is. Everything you just said she is. And she equaled Carlina on the day weighing 63 kilos. Let that sink in how special that is. You may never see that again. And you can make good arguments for the 2 ladies you guys said. But for me, it's just, and Sheffield is Sheffield, and she's just so dominant. I honestly can't picture anybody going head up with her and winning. I literally can't. And I can't say that about any other woman on the women's side when we're talking about the best female lifter of 2025. I could picture I mean, Brittany did lose head up to Sinita at Sheffield, and Carlina, pulled it out. It came down to the last deadlift at Worlds. These are tough back and forths. They have opposition. Nobody's even close to Agatha. She's on a whole nother level. She is that special. And if you're gonna point, if somebody came to me from the mainstream and said, point to me your, I'm showing my age here, Michael Jordan or whatever, um, and show me the performance that'll prove that, I would say, I'm going to give you Agatha Shitko, and let me tell you what she did at Worlds. And you tell me who you have in your sport, whoever this other person is. You tell me how special that person is. You tell me what they achieved. Because we have Agatha Shitko, and look what she did. At 63 kilos, taking out half the. It's crazy. I don't know if we'll ever see that. That's like Perk going head up with the 93s. You understand? This is crazy. That doesn't make sense. It's like Perk being 74 point whatever, slightly over 74s, and tying the 93s at Worlds, not at a local meet. It doesn't make sense. I can't wrap my head around it. So for myself, it can only be Agatha. But I'll tell you what, there is something special with what the two picks you guys had. Brittany in particular, even though she lost head up to Sonita, she also has the biggest total ever in IPF, and on the tested side, period. And there has to be, and number 2 all time, period, even untested, by the way, number 2 all time. There has to be something said for just pure strength like that. It is something special. And Carlina is an absolute monster as well, which she's achieving. So I mean, like you guys have great picks.
Can I add one? Can I add one thing, Ryan?
Yes, sir.
I agree with everything you said for the just absolute zenith that Agatha has risen to. Right? It is indisputable. It is irrefutable. All of the things that you just said. She would have come in second. To your point, Ryan, that Worlds in the 84, and I think 7th or 8th in the 84 pluses. Right, with her total weighing only just a stitch over 63. Right, so it's everything you said is spot on. However, I think even Agatha would admit, having been a World Games winner herself in 2022, albeit on the equipped side, I think she understands the magnitude and the significance of that event. And I think even Agatha would admit, if you really pressed her, that she just had an incomplete season. And so for these other lifters who kind of went toe-to-toe and went the distance, shall we say, and traveled internationally and did another one of these signature events overseas, I think Agatha might even admit, as phenomenal as my performances were, and as they overshadow the rest of the field, it was kind of like, to Rory's point, at half season or an incomplete season. And so that's what tips the scales for me.
Thing is, Agatha had the opportunity to go World Games and said no. I don't think she would admit that. I think she would say it don't mean.
And again, and again, respectfully, and we're not going to get into all the politics of it. That was a choice, and right, that was a choice. That was a decision that she made that she felt was in her best interests. So it wasn't like she was told she couldn't go. She made a decision not to go.
That's right. Honestly, I get what you guys are saying, but like half a year, whatever. But the 2 biggest comps are the first half of the year. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, you win Sheffield, you win Worlds, you win Best Lifter, and you do what you did at Worlds. I don't got to see you until 2026. Have a good rest. Let me
well, I mean, she did 2 of the 3 biggest comps of the year, right? Right. Like she didn't do World Games, and that is like to Matt's point, like debatably the biggest meet in powerlifting. And she didn't do that. So yeah, she did 2 of the 3 biggest meets, and yeah, right. She dominated those 2 meets. But then she missed the other like really big highlight meet of the year.
Right. All right. And I also should throw out, this is a good discussion, by the way. I'm glad we all had different people. It allows us to have these discussions. And it gives other people a little bit of shine as well. I'll also throw out on the untested side. I know you fellas might not be as up on the untested side, and sure as heck, it's not quite what it used to be. But Christy Hawkins, at 44 years old, totaled 720 in the 75 kilo class, and would be an honorable mention as well, in terms of what the women did in 2025. All right. Anything else we should say? Do you guys think, because those are the people that I had on here, Agatha, Carlina, Britt. Despite me picking Agatha, I had Britt and Carlina was going to talk about them. If we all ended up picking Agatha, I was going to swing around and talk about their years anyways. It just happened to work out perfect that you guys you guys ended up picking them. I don't think there's anyone else quite in the conversation like that. You guys ready to move on to the men?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right. Now we're going to get a little interesting, huh? I might ask you guys to, depending on who you pick, steel man case for a couple other people just for the sake of conversation. But maybe we'll go with Matt first this time. Who you got?
Yeah, it's honestly, Ryan, I think this is an easy answer for me. It's almost like you gave us the test questions in advance. I mean, it's so this is a very easy answer for me. The 2025 male lifter of the year is Chell Backlund, and I don't even know how this is really arguable, quite frankly, because I know a lot of people are going to say Bornstein and Perkins and this and that, but it's Chell Backlund. So my man comes to Sheffield at the beginning of the year and essentially does what I didn't think he could do. Comes down a weight class, rewrites history in grand fashion. And oh, by the way, it really wasn't even close. Okay. And then he goes to the European Championships, which is, in my opinion, it's the crown jewel of the regional events, right? It's I've said it many times. It is like a World Championships light, or a World Championships B, if you will, because of all the heavy hitters that come to that regional championships. It's better than winning an NAPF or something like that, just because there's more countries represented. So he goes to Euros and wins Euros, and then he wins the World Championships in Germany again at 66. So he was up in weight for Euros, and then he comes down in weight again. And then he goes to World Games and he places third. And this isn't his first rodeo at the World Games. I know that he didn't quite place exactly where he wanted, but he was up against stiff competition in Jurgens Kingamo. But so my man, where Carlina had 3 meets that she did, Chell ran the gauntlet and went 4. And so, and these aren't just 4, run of the mill rinky dink meets. They're not, I mean, one of them is an invitational in Sheffield, but the other 3 are just signature events, in my opinion. And so, yeah, I think it's Chell Backlund, and I don't even think it's close.
Okay, Rory, what are you thinking?
I think Shell is a great choice here, and probably who I would have picked. But now I'm going to go somewhere different just to keep things spicy.
Nice.
I'm gonna make an argument here for Joseph Borenstein. Little bit of a, not exactly a newcomer, right? Like we've seen him before, but like first like really big year from him, I think. And so one World Games, second at Advances Houston, second to Austin. Second highest good lift points ever from a man, 125.18, which I think is phenomenal. Currently holds the 83 kilo world record, which again, phenomenal. So that is a huge year. I think we see the men compete a little bit less frequently than some of these women, right? Like we see, like when Agatha is having a good year, she'll compete 8 times. I think we saw Meg Scanlon compete 6 or 7 times in the last 12 months. But like a lot of these men, will often only see them compete twice a year. And so I think him still showing up and having these really good performances, sort of 2 or 3 times in a year, is still a fantastic showing from him, and really, really strong performances as well.
Interesting. And obviously hit new milestones, taking 83s into 900. And
Yep.
for comparison's sake, and people heard the podcast, heard me say, like, he's 16 kilos off the weight class up. If you want to talk about just perspective, we're all very high on Perk, pound for pound wise, pound for pound king. But when Borenstein, oh, look at this. Our friend Eric Helms, eh? Oh, wow. Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Is he in? Eric, you in? I don't see you, Playboy. Here he is.
I'm here and I'm
He
so sorry.
is. There he is.
It's a whole new
Okay.
meaning to fashionably late.
Whole
Uh,
new meeting. My man made it though. My man dropped in. We're only at male um powerlifter of the year 2025, and we only did the women's before this, so you haven't missed much, my friend. You haven't missed much. Rory was just saying he picked Joe B. Matt said he picked Shell, and
mm,
and I'm wondering, sir, who did you pick?
I am going to give a divergent answer because I want to give a big shout out to closing out the year with finally getting over his best total after years of being quiescent, the strongest man in the world. That is, got to give a shout out to Jesus for coming in and actually proving several of us wrong, I believe, if I remember our predictions for SPD Austin, that he would not be able, I'm not going to say who, but that
No, no.
anyone who might have predicted that he wouldn't have gone over that prior total, that would have been theoretically who proved wrong. I will not say who might have said that, but that
We
is
won't
my
say who.
pick. No,
He's
Matt Gary. Matt
Jesus
Gary. It was Matt
Olivares.
Gary. It was Matt Gary. Matt Gary. Matt Gary. Matt Gary. Matt Gary.
Okay.
And
Wow. So we got
and,
another
and
one. Hey, listen, Jesus, strongest man in the world, strongest man of all time, biggest total tested or untested, apex predator of powerlifting. Um, I was wondering if somebody could make the case for Jesus when you're pulling that off. Now, there's a couple of caveats. Um, that performance wasn't at Worlds, but he did win Worlds.
Did.
He is a world champion yet again. So
right.
that's he's winning major titles. It's not like he's not showing up. 5, yeah, 6 is next year. I mean, that would be the world record for how many world titles in the 120 plus. So he's making history as well, and he's historically relevant. Very interesting. A very very big year for Jesus. Okay, listen, a couple things I'm going to throw out there. Then we'll stay on the men's and we'll double back for 1 sec before we move forward to get your women's pick, Eric. But let me ask you guys something. Would you Steelman case for Perk?
Hmm. Yep.
What do you think, Rory? Or sorry,
Yeah.
not Rory, Eric. Eric, what do you think? Because you said
Yeah, I mean, like it's not that hard. It's just there's so many good athletes. He's clearly still the pound for pound king. Um, I think he kind of sandbagged for for a good chunk of the year.
That's the
I
problem.
was Yeah, that is the problem, and it's hard to take someone who was on the King of the List naughty list and then put them into the the best athlete of the year for those who've listened to the Christmas episode. So that's the only reason that I wouldn't. But I mean, take that away, and what do you have? You've got a world champion and the best pound for pound lifter, and he's amazing. Yeah.
Because he won best lifter at Worlds, no less,
Hmm.
which is huge. However, it's all of 2025. And
Yeah.
you're right. I think if he didn't sandbag and he let the hammer drop like Joe B doing 900, if he did something that just blew your mind, oh my gosh. But we seen his totals. We thought he'd be capable of those. And so what Perk registered in 2025, we probably expected more. Because we think he's capable of more. He thinks he's capable of more, obviously, right? So we're seeing less than we expected. And that is what will hurt his 2025 campaign to be best lifter, despite the fact winning worlds, winning best lifter, clearly a phenomenal power lifter in his own right, winning advances against Joe B, no less. So if you're pro Joe B like Rory, and I'm pro Joe B as well, obviously, but they did a head to head, one on GL points for what that's worth. I don't know. It depends if you like those. I'm not a big GL points guy. Okay, so we already know
I
this.
didn't
I'm
know
not a big
that.
we're not
Did
a
you
big
guys
formula
know
guy.
that Ryan?
So, so so when we do tournaments and somebody beats another person on GL points, I'm not. It doesn't super duper sway me. It doesn't mean nothing. I don't totally fluff it off. It just doesn't sway me as much, which is why I'm not a huge World Games guy either. But that I think World Games in and of itself is important. And I think it's massive for the sport for all the reasons Matt already said. I just don't like that functioning piece of it. But for all the other purposes, yes, I mean, obviously, I think it's important for the sport as well. So, Matt, you look like you're going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to add one thing back in, and yet another reason why I chose Chel Backrun is you think of all of the world record totals on the men's side, which total is the least likely to get broken anytime soon, right? And it's either got to be Fedosienko 669.5, right? I mean, we've seen now what Ivan has done in the gym. So if he can put that together, maybe he's going to get it, right? But Chel's 770, he pushed it so far out that that total is likely to stand for another few years in my mind's eye. I don't see that total being broken anytime soon. And when I say soon, I say 1 to 2 years, right? The other totals are all much respectfully lower hanging fruit. We're going to see a lot of them go down next month in Sheffield, right? So as amazing as Borenstein's 890 was, it's
yeah,
it's already been passed. So.
And I kind of see Jesus the same way, except that there is one person who can break it. It's Jesus. So, yeah.
I think if I'm leaning, and I'm picking Shell as well, because what he did at Sheffield, I mean, people were showing up literally saying, look, if Shell doesn't show up, I got a chance. But if Shell's there, I think we're all just fighting for seconds and thirds. Like, that's crazy. That's he wasn't quite Agatha Shitko levels of opposition being like, okay, well, if Agatha shows up, it is what it is. Let's battle it out for second and third. It wasn't quite that, but it was crazy dominant. And then to your point, Matt, Euros, super high level international competition, collecting Euros, a weight class up, no less. So he's double weight class champ, moving back down for Worlds, collecting a world title again, podiuming at World Games. Yeah, I think he's had a phenomenal year. I'm going to have to give it to Shell as well. But I will say this amongst the 2025s on the men's side, for me, this was a tough one because of you have people like Joe B, who American Nationals is not an international meet, but it's got international level lifting for sure. You got guys like Taylor Atwood and Delaney Wallace. Between those two, you got 5 world titles, let alone. And then breaking new ground at 900 kilos. And then what he did do at Worlds and the international comp that he beat there. And like, you could definitely make a case for Joe B. You could definitely make a case for Jesus. Jesus won a world title and posted up the biggest total we've ever seen. I mean, what can you tested or untested? He reasserted himself. And I know what I felt when I was at SPD Austin. So you can make cases for these people. We'd be a stitch remiss if I didn't mention John Hack on the untested side. John Hack doing John Hack things. I gave a little shout out as well on the untested side for the women's, but John Hack had another phenomenal year. What John Hack is missing is opposition and counterparts to give these things meaning. Here's the thing: people in the untested could break X amount of records and win X amount of competitions, but you need some head-to-heads. Otherwise, it's the depth of competition just isn't quite there like the tested side. That's not John Hack's fault. He's doing the best he can. He had a phenomenal year. It won't tip right over in my book. I can't take it away from Shell and put it for John Hack because of that, though. But we'll see. 2026 untested side it's starting to heat up a little bit and trying to organize itself. We'll see if it can do so in 2026. Let's double back a stitch. Eric, who is your women's 2025 lifter a year?
You got to Sitko.
Okay, that's
very,
what I said. These two gentlemen,
obvious reasons.
These two gentlemen, Matt said Carlina, Rory said Britt, and phenomenal years, phenomenal lifters. But I thought we were all going Agatha Shitko for a second here, and I thought the world's going. Go ahead.
I think it's like maybe it's the spirit of the holidays, but part of the reason I wanted to choose Jesus was because I knew everyone else would. I thought everyone was going to choose Chell, so I'm glad it got spread around a little bit, to be honest, because I think there's a many deserving athletes. So But literally the only thing that can stop a gotta sit go is an entire powerlifting federation. So um, that's
That's right. You
it's
guys are
hard to
lucky.
deny. Yeah. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good way of wording it. Is
Hmm.
you guys are lucky I got suspended. Have the whole side of the women's side. All right, let's take a look. How about performance of the year? Now, this is an
That's
interesting one. This is a very
that's
interesting one because you could very well argue so many different performances for so many different reasons. From impact to can it ever be replicated to whatever. There is no right and wrong one for this one. There was for the other ones, and most of you guys got it wrong. But this one, you have an opportunity here. Okay, so
We
let's
doing men and women
start.
on this one?
You can. If you just want
yeah.
performance of the year, one of them, fine. If you want to do the advanced version where it's all in one, but if you want to do male, female, go ahead. If you want to do multiple, okay. But give me your number one off the hop. Eric, what do you got for me?
No, I don't want to go first on this one.
Okay. Rory, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna go female male. So my female performance of the year is Agatha Shitgo at Worlds, right? So I didn't pull her for the overall because she kind of only did half of a season. She didn't go to World Games, all of these things. But her Worlds performance was absolutely phenomenal, right? And so like I don't think I can give her lifter of the year because it was like, she had two phenomenal performances out of the year. But at Worlds she went 612.5 at 63.4. It looked to me like she was originally aiming for 10 times body weight, which, obviously is enormous milestone. Highest good lift points like ever recorded, and it's not close, right? It's highest good lift points ever recorded by like 8 or 9 points or something. It's like almost 10% higher than the
Hmm.
next highest person. Um, Bit of a shocker of a meet, to be honest. She went 6 for 9. Obviously it was like not the day that she was hoping for it to be. But 612.5 at like just a hair over 63 kilograms. Obviously like beat all of the 63s, beat all of the 76. Tied one of the 76s. Would have come second in the 84s. Like unbelievable how good that is. I don't even know what to compare that to in terms of like other sports, right? Um, that would be like someone running a 9.5 in the 100-meter sprint or something, and like being able to stop and turn around and watch everyone else finish the race afterwards. Like it's so much better than any other performance that we've ever seen.
You said tied 76s would have won on body weight. Okay,
Would have won. Oh,
let's
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. By
Tied on
far,
total would have won on body weight.
by far, too. Matt, what do you got, kind sir?
I have the exact same thing that Rory just said and nothing to add.
Yeah, I'll go. So we're gonna stay
It's,
with the women's for
yeah,
performance of the year.
that's
It's
Agatha.
Agatha. It's Agatha by a
Easily.
country mile for me.
Not
I
even, not even close.
can't even think of
Yeah.
anything. It's
That
literally
was also
speechless.
the
And
one I was going to select. So
I was
Yeah.
I was gonna wait and see if anybody had any kind of dissenting,
No.
hipster pick,
This
but no, that's a tough one. And Rory's struggling to find a comparison in another sport. It really is that tough. What would be the comparison to? It'd be like a football player, a quarterback, throwing a long bomb towards the opposition's end zone, running down the field and catching it. How about that? How about fucking that? And okay, that's probably yeah, that's probably about as slam dunk as you get for
yeah.
another sport. All right, how about the men's side? Performance of the year. This one is a little more difficult in my book. I'm interested in what you guys got, and I just might make an opposition pick depending what you guys got. Matt, what do you think, sir?
It's Austin Perkins at Avances. Just 9 for 9, 623 dots, 858 total, which is 13 kilos or 15 kilos over the world record. I know that it's unofficial because it's a home game and all that sort of thing. But again, if we're looking for the single greatest performance of the year, and he didn't even drop the hammer like you talked about on the Christmas special. He didn't even put his foot all the way down on the gas, which is just, to me, makes it even more extraordinary that he was able to do what he did against some stiff opposition and hit an 858 total. And it looked comfortable. None of it looked like he was redlining the engine. So for that reason, I think it trumps a lot of the other performances, at least in my mind.
Rory, you were nodding your head to this. Is that your pick as well?
That's my pick as well. I have nothing to add to that.
Eric?
This is why I went last. So, if that had not been mentioned, which would have surprised me, I would have had to show the boy some love. But there is another type of impressive performance. It's not when someone kicks it down the line like that and has more in the tank, and it's just like you're in awe of them as a human, but also when they push themselves to the absolute limit and also break some impressive barriers and do something that is just phenomenal, even when there was some doubt. And I want to give Bob his flowers for his performance at the recent SPD Austin, where each one of the attempt selection that was chosen there, and just that he truly squeezed blood out of the stone on that platform and actually surpassed what I think we said. This time I'll take the heat. I even was in a YouTube video. My poor little shredded commentator face, just a week out making terrible calls. Like I don't know that he can get over 10-10, and obviously he smashed that by 1.5 kilos, despite the commentators acting like I was crazy to say that he even got close. But no, seriously, I don't want to detract. Bob crushed it. He went 9 for 9. The attempt selection was amazing, and he put up a monstrous total, and it was just a phenomenal performance. And it was really cool to see an athlete just push themselves to the limit. And I think it was an extremely impressive total for someone who is not even a full 120. And I think it kind of juxtaposes, Perk having that dominant performance. It was a gritty performance in the best kind of way.
And it's funny because we do these preview shows, and if you fellas aren't, so I'm at Sheffield, I'm at Worlds, I'm at SPD Austin. People let me know all the time. They're not even my picks, but they'll be like, "Your boy got it wrong. You know that, right?" I heard what, whether it's Eric, Rory, Matt, like you guys, it'll start with, "Hey, I love you guys, love the podcast, whatever," but
But
you guys picked the wrong, but you picked the wrong one, and you're about to find out. But sometimes you guys pick the right one, and you don't hear from them. Sometimes it's like you guys are talking mad shit on that podcast, and then afterwards, like, where are you now? What happened here? Exit quickly. But yeah, those fellas let me know. From Marcellus to Bob, they listen to the podcast. Are like, you guys picked wrong, and then at the end, we're like, all right, well, there it is. I didn't actually pick it, but it is what it is. But if I'm going to say the number one performance of 2025 on the men's side, you have a couple of opportunities here. Unfortunately, you guys got it wrong, and I'm going to help you out, though. I'm going to steer this. I'm going to write the ship for us. But thank God I'm here. But you could say Shell, what he did at Sheffield, phenomenal. That day alone just opened up your mind at what a 66 man could do, and I think the rest of the community is taking notice, and now everyone's going to start leveling up. That was huge. You could say Jesus with that performance; it's the biggest of all time. You could say that. But I'm going to say Joe B at U.S. Nationals, 900 kilos. And again, he was the first 83 to cross that barrier. No sandbagging. As a matter of fact, no sandbagging. Almost cooked himself on that last deadlift, huh? Holy smokes. Opened up the doorway for Taylor Atwood to do a Hail Mary swing. And it wasn't even a Hail Mary, so to speak. It was within reach. It was reasonable anyways. But Joe B faced world-class opposition, head up, same weight class. You know how I feel about that. From Taylor Atwood to Delaney Wallace to all the other 83s, like Sean Noriega pulling in, almost catching up to Delaney, to all the way down. The 83s are pretty stacked. And that performance there, not only in reaching a new barrier of 900 kilos, which I've said on the holiday special, the year before, Russ entered U.S. Nationals doing 860, and we'd never seen that before, and that was 2024. And now, a year later at U.S. Nationals, no one had ever seen 860, and he did 860 at U.S. Nats. A year later, we're talking 900.
Mhm.
That's an insane year-over-year improvement. And he did it as a junior, gentlemen. We can't lose sight of this. A junior winning a showdown against greats like Delaney and Taylor and all the 83s and breaking new ground like that at 900 kilos. Wild performance. For me, it's got to be Joe B. If I'm thinking how I feel about what Perk did at Avances, and if I'm going to remember that in 10 years, or if I'm thinking I'll remember Joe B versus Taylor and Joe B crossing 900, I'm going to be honest with you. I think in a few years' time, Perk at Avances is going to be another money meet. He did great, but I think Joe B I'm going to remember due to the battle and due to the significance of 900 kilos. I think so. Anyways, that's. Is there anything else though, that we think comes close in terms of performance of the year? Any kind of honorable mentions? Obviously, I already said Jesus, tested, untested, biggest total. You guys already mentioned Perk. We're all set. Let's move on. How about this one? Comeback of the year, 2025. There's definitely some room on this one. Matt, who do you have for comeback of the year?
Heather Connor. I mean, just what she did at Worlds. I mean, the last time that she was an IPF world champion, I think was what, 2019? And so we're looking at the dominant 47 of, I don't necessarily want to say yesteryear, but she was a dominant 47, then kind of has this lull, where she's not placing as high, not competing at all of those meets, placed third in Malta, bounced around between girl power, actually did an equip meet in there back in 2024, but had this just resurgence where she came into classic nationals, total 425, and then up the ante another 10 kilos, traveled well, goes overseas, has an exquisite 8 for 9 performance, and pulling 212 and a half to upset Tiffany Chapone, who, is for all intents and purposes the greatest 47 kilo lifter we've ever seen. And so to do that on the world championship stage, and essentially, I don't necessarily want to say come out of nowhere, but just to rise from the ashes is just, remarkable for me.
Anybody have a different pick than Heather Connor? Rory.
A couple of you guys have already mentioned him, but I want to say Jesus Olivares. So, obviously he never stopped winning, but and so in some ways, like it's a little bit weird to say that he's had a comeback, but his strength was massively down for a little while there. Like his best meet prior to this year was 2023, where he totaled 1152.5. Worlds this year totaled 1070. Like didn't qualify for Sheffield after previously winning it. Like that had to have really stung, I think. And then coming back at SBD Austin and totaling 1153.5, obviously not a new world record because it was a domestic meet, but outdoing his own world record by a kilogram, which is a little bit of a statement, right? And that 430 kilo deadlift was like scarily close to getting to lockout, right? Like there was if I was a 430 kilo barbell right now, I would be scared. So my comeback of the year is Jesus Olivares because I think he took a little like he still won worlds, but took a little bit of a hit this year, and then by the end of the year has sort of come back to new highs.
Sir.
I have a sneaky way of still I agree. It's Heather Connor. But for my male pick, which I think we agreed we would not do for this one,
Ooh.
and have two, I gotta say Emil Krastev because
Mm.
he has been at second or third at every IPF Worlds he's done since 2021, I believe, post COVID. And he's been fighting, clawing in the most competitive weight class, and he finally put it together in 2025 and won Worlds. And I know how much that meant to him and how hard he's been working for that and how many tight battles he's been in. So yeah, I want to give a shout out to Emil Krastev for, I think, breaking through like just a ridiculously competitive class, and also just his own ability to make it go well enough to just win because it is fine hair, tooth's edge kind of nail biter weight class, the 93. So, big shout out to him for finally getting that world title.
So I'm gonna land on Heather Connor, um, because everything Matt already said. From 2019 to come back like this is crazy. And it looked like she had been bypassed within her own nation with Jessica
Mm.
Espinal, and it felt like there was new blood in town, and the old guard was eventually going to get pushed out, like it does in every sport, and every this is the way it goes. And you could that's what the it felt like the momentum was moving in that direction. And for her to come back like that, and the way she did it, head up against Tiffany Chapon, no less,
Yeah.
the GOAT, and happening at Worlds. And it didn't happen at Nats, didn't happen at a local meet, didn't at Worlds. She did that against the greatest 47 the strongest 47 we've ever seen. Tiffany's a machine, and Heather pulled it off. It's the type of stuff you make a movie about. It was special. It's got to be Heather for me. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, Ryan. Just fun fact: the difference in total from her what she won with in 2019 to what she won with this year, she's put 56 and a half kilos on her total in 6 years. And some people might just kind of roll their eyes at that, but 56 and a half kilos at that body weight is extraordinary. It is exceptional. And so I'll raise my hand and say, admittedly, I was one of the people who pretty much had written her off, and she proved me wrong. And I understand that there's context behind every scenario and every situation and every competition. And when you don't have the full picture, which I clearly didn't have for some of her performances, I just want to give credit where credit's due. She's come back and just blown it out of the water, and it's exciting. And yeah, without question, she's the comeback lifter of the year in my mind's eye.
But I got some honorable mentions. I think Taylor Atwood's got to be mentioned. If he had won against Joe B head up, I mean, that would be it. That would be it. It doesn't matter what Heather would have done. That's crazy. Let me just say, like, Taylor was so far back, so far removed from what 2021, that 838.5, so far removed from being the king. He had so many performances that he was sub 800 kilos. And then he had a stretch where he wasn't lifting at all, period. He went from subpar performances, being heavily injured, to not lifting at all. He was so cooked. If you would have polled the community, it would be a resounding unanimous, he's done, we're moving on. And the 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 fact that he came back in 2025 and did what he did at US Nationals and did 876 at the time when he finished 876, that bypassed Russ at Sheffield. Russ being the most dominant 83 of all time, Russ taking the world record 83 kilo title at Sheffield, Russ beating all those 83s, and Taylor bypassed Russ with that 876, just showing what he ended up doing. Now, Joe B did what Joe B did, but just a phenomenal comeback for Taylor. Doesn't quite bypass Heather in my book because Heather won a world title, but crazy. Also, I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention Russ. Russ doing from a loss at Worlds, a devastating loss at Worlds, coming back at Sheffield, rematching Germans again, and throw Addy in the mix, and winning the battle of the 83s and taking the 83 kilo world record is huge. And then later on, was it 6 months later, moving up a weight class and taking that world record is also pretty crazy. I mean, if you compare his 2025 to his 2026, leaving 2025, there was a growing mass of people saying Russell's cooked. I mean, if he stays 83, he's not going to be the man anymore. If he moves up, he's too small. He's not going to do it. And then leaving 2025, he broke world records in both those weight classes in the exact same year. And that's a very difficult endeavor to do. And coming off as the comeback, coming off of the previous year, it's a night and day, night and day. So Russ leveling up huge too, would get honorable mention. And also Megan Scanlon's second half of 2025 after Worlds, kind of doing her own turbo tiff, turning into a demon at these local money meets, and just killing it as a 69. But again, so there's some honorable mentions with Meg, Russ, Taylor, but it's got to be Heather in my books as well. Anything else we should dive into this, gentlemen, or move on? Okay. Eric, who do you have for your breakout star of 2025?
Will Ball. I mean, that was shocking. It's shocking. Like to put up that kind of total at his age, man. It it's just it makes you it's mind-boggling if you think about what if this young man stays on this trajectory, stays in the game, keeps going. What is he putting up in 10 years? If he, I mean, he may not stay in the weight class because he's so young. So, but even then, what's he putting up in the next weight class up? So it was hard for me to see that performance and not immediately go, ooh. But again, I think we also have a category later, if I'm not wrong, that is rising star. So I am struggling with exactly the distinction between those two. So maybe I'm picking the wrong category, but nonetheless, that's who I picked.
So for clarity, breakout star is who did it in 2025. Rising star is who you think's going to do it in 2026. So a
Then he
breakout
did it.
star, yeah, exactly. You're right on the money. And then 2020, the rising star is they haven't broke through yet, but I think you better pay attention to this guy, this girl. You think you're about to see a Will Ball about to emerge. That's a lot tougher though. Like that's a lot tougher to for the rising star. But breakout star, it's already happened, and yeah, good pick there. Matt, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to go against that for some of the same reasons that you actually voted for that. I mean, if he's maybe I'm a little bit fuzzy. So he hit this incredible performance at the Origins Invitational. I mean, what is that in Illinois, right? That's a local competition, respectfully. Not saying that he couldn't do it on a grander stage, but he did it at the Origins Invitational, which, again, I'm not familiar with that meet, but it's a powerlifting American meet in Illinois, putting up a 920 total, which is the best total that we've ever seen. But he lifted unopposed, so he's not having to make, attempt selection decisions and strategize and so forth. And so I would pick him for the category for guy to look out for in 2026. I mean, yeah, now he's put his name on the map. But for me, the breakout star of the year, and it's an easy one, is Joe Jordan. I mean, come on. Look at what this guy has done. I mean, and we didn't usually think of Joe Jordan doing a whole lot, but since he's had this resurgence and this breakthrough, it's actually the definition of breakout star, right? As he's aligned himself with TSG and Jason Tremblay, he's gone 26 out of 27 in his last three comps, right? He came in fourth, I think it was, at the World Championships in Lithuania. But then, oh, by the way, he goes to the World Games in China and wins, okay, with a 720 kilo total, exquisite performance, kind of YOLO'd his last deadlift. So that 720 could have been higher, right, at the World Games. And then he comes down to SPD Austin and goes 9 for 9 and puts up a 732.5 kilo total, which, aside from Shell Backlund, is the best total we've ever seen at 66. So for me, it's Joe Jordan. I mean, he has literally and figuratively broken through. I mean, he's had a resurgence in his career, and it's not that he wasn't on the map before. He was on the map, but he just wasn't placing and wasn't doing the things that he's now doing. And I think we're not going to turn this into a preview show for Worlds. That's a long way off. But just taking a look at the landscape right now, you'd say he's got to be the favorite to win Worlds at 66. And so for me, it's Joe Jordan.
Rory, I got a tiebreaker on that one, but I want to hear what you got because this might be a three-way tiebreaker. I got to break up.
Yeah, no, you're definitely going to need a tiebreaker there. So my pick for breakout star is Anthony McNaughton. So
Mm,
2023 wins junior nationals. Doesn't make it to Worlds, right? Wins junior nationals, doesn't make it to Worlds. Best total at that point was sort of, I think it was 900, but mostly floating sort of around the 860, 880 mark. Takes 2024 off. 2025 comes back and sort of like explodes into the opens, right? Won US Open Nationals, won Worlds, beat Keenan Lee, who I think a lot of people were actually beat Keenan more than once. I think a lot of people were talking about Keenan as being like this like unstoppable force, right? And Anthony McNaughton showed us that that was absolutely not the case. Beat Emil Norling head to head as well, who in some years we would have talked about as being like lifter of the year, though it's possibly been a couple of years now. Um, he was sort of in the scene, right? Like he won US Nationals as a junior. There's like that's absolutely nothing to sniff at. Um, but like this year, he like showed who he was on an international platform as an open lifter, and to me, that's a real breakout, right? Like he's gone from like being a sort of a local hero to being a international performer.
So these are all excellent picks, and I guarantee you, um, people in the comments when I drop these are going to be picking all these different people. I'm going to land
That's
on
great.
Anthony McNaughton
mm,
because of all the people we just said, first off, you had to have not already breaking through. And he did not break through like he did in 2025. If someone was to say like, I don't know, freaking uh, Megan Scanlon or Russell Orr, he's like, okay, well, you're missing the boat by quite a bit, huh? Like,
Yeah.
Jesus Oliveira's breakout star 2025. Okay, well, you're a few years late. But Anthony McNaughton, in my mind's eye, no, he didn't break through yet. He definitely did not break through yet. He leveled up. Was this a leveling up year? And he needed to level up to do what he achieved. A, yes, satisfies that. Now, B, did he achieve enough to beat out everyone else that also leveled up? I'd say, yeah. Winning Worlds, winning US Nationals, breaking the world record, and doing what we'd never seen done in that weight class. I'm comfortable giving it to Anthony McNaughton. But off the dome, I think there's going to be a lot of people saying Will Ball, just giving you guys a heads up. There will be. I had people in my DMs being like, "This is Will Ball's world." Oh my God, Will
It,
Ball. It's Go ahead, Matt.
yeah, let me clarify. I'm not raining on Will Ball's parade. I think he's, clearly I cannot wait to see what he does. I mean, I congratulated the guy. He and I chatted a little bit in DMs. It's exciting to see what he did. Again, albeit at this local meet, but again, you got to get in the thick of it. Not saying he can't, just saying we talk about it all the time. It's a show and prove sport. And so you got to come to nationals, you got to lay it on the line with these other dogs and see what happens. So he was in my honorable mention, as was McNaughton.
Eric, you got
I have
cheeky
some.
smile.
I do. I just want everyone to recall what I said
Uh-oh.
last year when I had a pick of Joe Bornstein and everyone was like that was a quote right there, by the way. That was exactly what was said. It was
Rory
it was
Lynch.
Yeah,
it was
I said that.
yeah. And I'm thinking these guys are sleeping. And now we all woke up, didn't we? I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
We did. We did.
I would like to make an honorable mention. Um, just because nobody else has said her. I want to say Abby Wallace from Australia.
Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
so one Open Nationals at 63 with a 502. Came, I think it was sixth at Worlds with a 500 kilo total, also at 63. And then SBD Cup, which would be like the SBD Austin analog in Australia, went down to 57, totaled 495, making her the sixth. That's the sixth best ever, the total at 57. added 6 good lift points between, was it June and October or something? So yeah, very, very strong performance from Abby Wallace there as well.
Okay. Before we do the next one, let's do a 2-minute pee break. How's that sound?
It's good.
Have both, but let's have Matt.
Okay. Matt, you had a woman you want to throw out there for breakout.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's Megan Lee Smith on the women's side. And again, once again, I don't even think it's close. I just if you pull up her open powerlifting, so I mean, and again, she's been around. It's not like she's has kind of like the same analogy I use with Joe Jordan. I mean, she's been there. In 2019, she won the Junior World Championships, but it's been really cool to see since then when she's ventured into the Open. In 2022, she placed fifth. 2023, she placed third. And then 24 and 25, she placed second. Then, oh, by the way, she goes to World Games. She places second. And then most recently, she has totaled 483 kilos, weighing just a stitch over 52. She weighed at 52.3. And then weighing 52.2 at the Oceania Powerlifting Championships, totals 490.5. So knocking on the door of 500, which, before we'd only mentioned 500 with 52 kilos with potentially Evie. Well, now she's essentially surpassed what the great Evie Corrigan has done. And so for me, I mean, and you can arguably say, in addition to being the breakout star of the year, she's the most underrated lifter. I mean, she hasn't gotten any shine, but she deserves her shine. And going into the 52s again next year, I would say she's got to be the clear favorite.
Let me ask you right now. 2026, does she do 500 kilos?
Yeah, I'll say she will. Yes. I think there's still more meat on the bone on some of those lifts. I don't think that they were, every single one of her lifts was absolutely RPE 10. So yeah, I'll say yes. She's got a whole year to do it.
Rory?
I'm going to say yes. Yes, I'm going to say yes.
Eric?
I will also say yes, and I don't want to spoil the plot, but this person is also on my list elsewhere, which may have also indicated my lack of understanding of maybe the difference between breakout and rising, but nonetheless, or the ambiguity between those two.
Yeah, it's kind of the lines blur. It is what it is. Okay, let's do the rising star. Let's talk about who's going to be breaking out in 2026.
Eric? Want me to start since here we
please.
go. I selected Megan Lee Smith for the same exact reasons as Matt, flying under the radar somehow after becoming the dominant and clear best 52 and kind of taking the baton from fellow Kiwi Evie Corrigan. And I say that with all due respect because these two lifters are just head and shoulders above everyone else in a very competitive field that has a history of some amazing lifters from France and other places that are all amazing. But like we all just agreed, we're probably going to see the first 500 total in the 52 kilo class coming from Megan Lee Smith next year. And it makes me think we are not far off the first 10 times body weight total in a female IPF lifter. I don't know if it'll happen in 2026, but we only have a few possible contenders. There's Tiffany Chapone, there's Megan Lee Smith, there's obviously a Goddess Sitko, depending upon how dehydrated she wants to be. But yeah, so I definitely had her flagged for this category.
So in terms of breakout star of 2025, a veteran that's been around but definitely broke out due to a weight class change was Sarah Naldi. Sarah had been around, and we all were familiar with Sarah, but that weight class change to 57 kilos changed her entire career. And now the history of her resume and what she means to powerlifting. Taking the world title, taking the world record, and now punching her ticket to Sheffield. And the battles she's had, Sarah Naldi could easily have been a good pick as well, just with what she did. And this was for sure a breakthrough star or a breakthrough year for her in that weight class change. We'll see what happens. And she actually on the podcast said, it's not crazy that she could go 52. She said 57 was so easy, and she's flying under 57. She thinks she might be able to actually, because she hasn't water cut, she thinks she could lose a little bit more body weight and then water cut and make 52. That's pretty wild. But she's still got more work to do at 57. All right. Rising star. Who are we looking for in 2026 that's going to make a how you like me now moment, like a Serenaldi, who year before you wouldn't be throwing out there for a world title. And then in that year, oh, hey, how you like this? I'm a world champ. I'm the world record holder. Rory, who are you looking at in 2026?
Man, maybe I've misunderstood these categories as well. So my,
I think I did too, to be honest.
Yeah.
You set the categories. How can you misunderstand them? Okay.
You think you got all the answers? I changed the questions.
Right.
Okay. Well, I'm just gonna say what I had written down anyway. So I've got Will Ball as my rising star. I think he had a actually my notes say rising star 2027. Let's make that 2026. He's like obviously
we'll go back to this podcast in 2027 to see if you were right.
Right.
He won, was it Sub Junior Worlds? He won last year, but then went to US Nationals this year and bombed, right? So like had a pretty, let's say, rough start to the year. And then of course he did this phenomenal performance much more recently, like, definitely the top 20 performances we've seen of the entire year of every athlete, right? And I think if he can continue that momentum through next year, we're going to see an absolute star emerging. But like the reason that I haven't picked him for one of these other categories, like the breakout or performance of the year or something, is that one really good meet at a local competition. To me, that doesn't say that this person has arrived, right? Like maybe that's a warning shot. That's saying, hey, look, this person is on their way. But I want to see him do it at a nationals. I want to see him do it at a worlds or an NAPFs or something like that, or SBD Austin, something like that. Before I would really sort of say that he's here to stay.
So let me ask this follow-up question: if it's Will Ball, and you think he's the breakthrough star of 2026, does that mean you think he's going to become the number 193 in 2026?
Oof.
As a junior, yes.
No. Come on, man. Oh, wow. Now who's getting funky with these? Now who's playing games? This guy's good, huh? You cannot back Rory into a corner.
Oh my God.
Sure.
No, not as an open lifter. But I also think that that's a really tall ask, right? Like the 93s, the open 93s are debatably the deepest class at the moment. Like there's probably, God, you could probably come up with a list of 893s who are within swinging distance of the number one spot on the podium at Worlds for 2026. And saying that for him to be the breakout, he needs to rise to the top of that, especially at his age and his like maturity, is I think that's asking a lot. And if he does, that would be phenomenal. But like, I wouldn't consider it a failure, or I wouldn't consider it as a miss as an athlete if he doesn't manage to do that. And particularly for a young athlete, I've sort of accidentally put my coaching hat on. So sorry about that. Particularly with a young athlete, like I think continuing to improve his total, starting to show up at higher level meets and putting together good performances at higher level meets without necessarily having the pressure of being the number one at those high level meets is like a really good stepping stone to being able to go, okay, like now we're pushing to be the number one lifter in the world. Now we're pushing to be the top of the podium, the Sheffield invites, all of these things. But not doing that is not a failure either.
Matt, what do you think for 2026?
Let me start by saying that I think that Rory, you articulated all of those things about Will Ball much better than I did. So thank you for saying that. Will Ball is without question my rising star of 2026 on the men's side for all the same reasons that Rory just articulated. On the women's side, I have Janae Kovacs as my rising star of 2026. She has put on 67 kilos on her total in the past year. She won in Costa Rica, the World Junior and Sub Junior Powerlifting Championships. And then she came in third at Avances, but hit a 567 kilo total at 69 at
Mhm.
Avances, which sets the table for an unbelievable 69 kilo clash coming up here at Powerlifting America Nationals in 2026. I mean, I cannot wait for that. That's going to be must see TV with obviously the whole entire world wondering what Meg Scanlon is going to do, right? She could go 63, she could go 69, but even without Meg Scanlon, we've got Janae Kovacs, we've got Celine Crum, Gabby Martinez, and Jackie Later. We've got 4 rock stars and heavy hitters right there, and it's just going to be unbelievable to see. But yeah, I think she's my rising star of 2026.
Um, so I'll just throw us out there now. Janae Kovacs on the women's side. I don't know if we were just going to do rising star, but you could do men, women's just to throw more out there. But Janae Kovacs is my women's as well.
Yep.
She hit 580 in the gym. I know it's the gym, and you got to hit to standards on the platform, but just potential wise, when I'm seeing this and what I'm expecting, and she's 22 years old, and some of these young guns coming into the game don't even know like 600 kilos at 69 is wild. It's crazy. I get the shit code type of talk, but for Janae, she's like, what do you mean that's wild? That's crazy. I basically just got here and I'm already doing 567 and I just did 580 in the gym. Like I fully anticipate 600 in 2026. Now, whether or not she gets that or not, the number 169 in the world now that Agata has left the weight class is Corolla Gara. And Gara's at 588 at her top end she's ever done. Janae's right there. Right there. She's right there. If Janae, even if she doesn't end up being number 1, she's gonna break through in 2026 and do something crazy. She's definitely somebody you gotta watch. And in 2025, winning junior worlds and then advances was all just prep work, and what she's doing in the gym now, closing out 2025, it's all just warning shots for everybody. Pay attention. Next year's gonna get it's gonna get crazy. So I 100% agree on that. Eric, what do you think for 2026? Did you already go?
Well,
Sorry.
I started with Megan Lee Smith.
That's
Yeah,
right. That's right. That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
And
But
that was a good pick
I
as well.
will say, like the commentary on Will Ball, I actually agree with everything that everyone said, and I think there's a strong possibility he ends up with the highest total in that weight class next year. But whether you would argue that he came out on top because everyone else, you may not see the highest total come out of a Worlds necessarily
Mm.
because of the way World is structured. People are going for a world title. I think we could easily see him in the gym, definitely, but certainly a possibility if he's doing less than world level meets. I could see him having the highest total next year as well.
Now, what Rory was saying about Will Ball being a breakthrough star for 2026, even if he doesn't necessarily, like Rory saying, I'm not ready to pick him as leaving 2026 as the number 193. However, I think he'll make such an impact in such a stacked division that he could still be considered a breakthrough star. I could say the same thing for Elliot Sykes because
Mm.
Elliot, if he was in any other weight class, probably would be destined for a world title at what is Elliot 19? He'd be 20. It'd be crazy. But because he's in Perk's weight class and he's has the misfortune of going head to head with the pound for pound king of powerlifting, it's going to be a tougher ask. But what he's about to do in 2026, regardless, I think is going to make him a breakthrough star. Like I could see Elliot doing a bigger total at 20 years old in 2026 than Taylor Atwood did in that massive 2021 838.5. He might surpass what Taylor did when we all were like, oh my gosh, we've never seen anything like this. And he might do it at 20 years old. Like that is insane. And his potential and what he is of the ilk of Atwood and Perk, meaning he might be in that lineage of pound for pound king. It's just not his time yet. Now, I'd be also fine if one of you gentlemen said, agree with what you just said, but 2026, not yet. That would make him breakthrough star 2027. Tip of the hat to Rory, who's he's picking these up like 2-3 years down the road. That's how confident Rory is in some of his picks. He'll go right up to 30-30 if you or 33, 20-30,
30,
30-30. Can you imagine? He's like, all right, take it easy there, Prophet. But, but anyways, Yeah, interesting picks here, gentlemen. How about we do you guys want to get into the single events where we
Yeah,
talk
let's do
about
it.
squat of the year, bench of the year, deadlift of the year?
Yes,
Let's
sir.
start with squat of the year. Eric, what do you got, sir?
Squad of the year, I got 318 by none other than Sonita Mola. I mean, it's
Yes.
pretty amazing. We have the first 700 official squat, also a world record by the Queen herself. And man, what else? What else could it be?
That's Sheffield, no less. It's the biggest squat. It's a milestone in terms of 700 pounds, and it's at the biggest event. I mean, that's quite the trifecta in terms of impact on the sport, a milestone hit. Where was it done? And she was going head up with Britt at the time. Like it checks so
Hmm.
many different boxes. That's going to be a tough one. And if I'm honest, I'll just throw us out there on the for the women. I can't think of a better one off the top of my head. Maybe somebody else has got something different. Um, Rory, what do you got, sir?
I've got the same squad for the women's, but the only thing I want to add to that is that she has held that record continuously since 2023, and she's added very nearly 40 kilos to it in that time, which is just like there's not many people who have added 40 kilos to their squat in 2 years at the elite level at all, like let alone on top of the best squat in the world, right? Potentially bar none. Um, I will throw out a men's squat of the year, though. I think Russell Orhe's 355.5 NAPFs, adding 14 and a half kilos to the existing world record. His first real meet at 93, he did like a random QT meet at some point where he totaled like I don't know, like 120 kilos or something at 93. But like aside from that, it's his first real meet at 93. And he like really showed out. And this was this was actually the time that he flew to the wrong country, and then I think he took like an overnight bus or something to get to the meet. So I don't know if that makes the squat better or worse, but it definitely adds to the mythos of the squat a little bit.
On top of that, his body weight was really light because he got a really bad stomach sickness, and he was like, "Oh, I'm not sure how this is gonna fly." Ends up squatting what he's squatting, breaking the world record, 10 times body weight, blah blah blah. And the reason why he hit 10 times body weight because he weighed in so light due to that stomach illness. So all's well that ends well, apparently, huh? Matt, what do you
Shout,
got, sir?
shout out to stomach viruses.
That's
Tell you
right.
what.
That's right.
On the women's side, I have the same thing. I have Sunita Mulu's actually three. She did 318.5 in girl power, but yeah, 318 as Eric alluded to. And on the men's side, on ordinarily, I would give it to Jesus having the heaviest squat or heaviest world record in history. The only reason that I'm not is because, and I say just in air quotes, he just essentially chipped his own record. I'm going to give the squat of the year to Aston Ruska. That 381 that he just did at the SBD Austin was unbelievable considering the stuff that he's battled back from with his injured pec. And it's just extraordinary. So that 381 unofficially goes over the world record, which actually just got broken the other day, by the way, by someone in Algeria. But anyway, just the fact that he did the 381 under those circumstances, coming back from injury, I'm giving the squad of the year on the men's side to Ashton Ruska.
Yeah, so you're right in that Sunita later on would chip this at girl power, but I'm going to
Right.
stick with the Sheffield version because it's Sheffield, the world record, blah, blah, blah. But you're
And
right.
yeah, and I
If
also
one
want
was
to
heavier,
add, yeah, and I also want to add one thing, and I say this with the utmost respect and love, Sonita. You are capable of squatting 325 with a little bit better attempt selection. So
we'll see what happens.
You're capable of standing up with that other red on the bar. You've proven it. You can do it. Just it'll happen with a little bit better attempt selection.
We'll see because the battles between, I mean, we didn't even think of this category rivalry of the year. That's one that's just off the top of the dome. But I'm telling you what, if we did Sonita versus Britt, might take it because Sonita got one at Sheffield, which is a super high level meet. Britt got revenge at Worlds, obviously a super high level meet. And then World Games, Britt wins on GL points, but Sunita walked away with the bigger total. And we're like, holy, these ladies are pushing each other to the limit. Phenomenal back and forth. It's been a few years now that they've been going back and forth like this, and it's not getting old. And every time they meet, you flip a coin who might win. Like
Yeah.
that, it's a phenomenal rivalry. You gotta like, I don't know if is this, let me just ask this, because this is unprepared. But is that probably the best rivalry we got going right now in the sport, do you think? I can't think of one that at the top of the sport, back and forth, major titles back and forth, the biggest of wins back and forth. It's got to be it, doesn't
Yeah, I think so.
it? I mean, that's special. And it's funny because it's the 84 plus division, which previously we're in an era where it's just one lady by a landslide, and it's nowhere near as exciting when it's one person by a landslide. And now the 84 pluses is like you can't miss it because you don't know the ending of that movie. That's what people got to understand. If you know what the ending of the movie is before it even starts, people aren't going to get excited. I know athletes are like, it takes the pressure off when you know you've already won when you show up. But believe me, that pressure and anxiety you feel because the competition's so stiff is what everybody wants tuning in for. But anyways, yeah. So did we swing around all for squad of the year? Did we do men's?
I threw an Astra and Rory said Russ.
Okay,
I
let
don't
me
know
say.
I don't know that we got one from Eric or yourself.
Eric, do you have
I
a men's?
may, I have one lifter selected for these three, so I might have done
Okay.
that wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we said that in the group
In the
chat.
group
We
chat.
actually said just grab a squad of the year, and we're
Yeah.
just totally just like I said. You think you got the answers? I changed the questions on your Playboy, and that's
You
all
did
right.
also ask for the male and female lift meet of the year. So
No,
wasn't quite sure
that
how
was
to
Matt.
tackle.
That was Matt.
Sorry, was that Matt?
That was Matt.
That was-
And that's he got a little too far.
don't
Um,
don't really know how to interpret that.
I
Uh,
I
well, I tried to reach out to the meet director of Avankus to see how Avankus identified, and they never got back to me.
Oh my
so
God.
so you're gonna yeah, you'll bow out of that one. I'm gonna say though for squat of the year. I was there live, so maybe this impacts me differently. But SBD Austin, I am telling you, when Jesus Oliveras, the strongest man that ever lived, grabbed that block of chalk and started adding war paint to his face before he came out, and it was as hype and electrifying as they're loading up that bar. I haven't felt that. Uh, the last time I think I felt that was when Jess loaded up the win for 2022. It was crazy. I felt it then and I felt it when I looked over and you see everyone saw now me and Russ. They showed our reaction to Jesus coming out for those squats and those lifts and Jesus coming out and squatting what he did. And like that video of me and Russ's reaction went crazy. And actually, SBD just made our reaction was so big they made a GIF of us now. If you put in like Russ and Lapadat or Six Pack Lab or whatever, it's a GIF available like that. And I felt it. Like I don't think another squat made me feel quite like that. So on the women's side, I'll say Sunita. On the men's side, I'm taking Jesus 478.5. And historically, Ray's done squatted more. And so you might say, wow, this man squatted, more than anyone else in his weight class. Why would you take Jesus? Because the impact of that squat, and I was there. It was something. I can't think of another one in 2025 that quite hit as hard as that one. So there we go. Let's move on to the bench press. Rory, what do you got for bench press, sir?
So again, I've misunderstood the categories. I've done male, female, so I'll rattle them both off quite quickly.
That's what I've done as well.
Female, I have Brittany Schlater's 162.5 kilogram bench press at Open Worlds in Germany. 7.5 kilo PR on her way to a world record title. It was sort of round two this year of Brittany versus Sunita, and that was sort of on her way to the win at Open Worlds, and so I think that bench was phenomenal. Male, Yokoyama Kosei, Japanese bench presser. He won Bench Worlds in Norway in May. But the specific bench that I'm nominating is that this is at 74 kilos, by the way. He benched 228 at 74 in Himeji in Japan at the APAC comp. By the way, weighed in 72.2. He was light. And I saw him in the warm-up room like the next day or something touch and go 270. Like just incredible bench presser. Yeah, 228 from Yokoyama Kosei.
Matt, what do you got, sir?
On the women's side, and I normally wouldn't pick it at a meet like this, but I've got Agata Shitko benching 160 kilos,
That's mine as well.
weighing only 71.1. That was done at Silent Worker. Just absolutely extraordinary. I mean, just mind blowing. And then on the men's side, I've got Rondell Hunt's 266 at the NAPF bench press championships.
You're always going to get tip of the hat for me whenever you say Rondell Hunt, and the fact that
love Rondell.
And the fact that we're talking about Rondell Hunt breaking world records because he made a national team is amazing. Thank God. 2025 for Rondell. We saw him at US Nats. We see him breaking world records. So happy he's back and in the conversation. Eric, you gave a fist bump when he said Rondell. Is that also yours as well?
It was, yeah. And I actually followed directions on this one, and I did not have a men and women's pick. So mine was Rondell for making it into the record books, getting a national team, all the things you just stated, and setting a world record, 266. It's an amazing bench.
Yep.
So I got one that you guys didn't say. First off, if like on the women's side, I would say Agata Shitko 160 is nutso, and so I'm gonna go Agata Shitko. And on the men's side, you guys haven't said him. He's an absolute bench legend. Kadoma, if I'm saying his name, Daki Kadoma, at 45 years old in the 83 kilo class, 45 bench press 233.
Yeah.
So he's an 83 benching over 500 pounds, and he's in his mid 40s. In the open World Championships, won a silver medal. Bench came down to 220. The guy is a freaking legend. And in 2025, lifting in the open, grabbing a silver medal, and then I think it was the Asian Championships, he did 233. So still international competition. Absolute freaking phenomenal bench presser, and that'll take the nod for me. I did see the other lifters and the gentleman you mentioned, Rory, in the 74s, world champion, doing crazy things as well. And I was humming and hawing which way I wanted to go. But the fact that Kadoma is 45 years old doing what he's doing, that'll sway me.
By the way, Daiki can't even walk unsupported at the moment, but he can bench press. Like he's on crutches onto the platform, benches that, and then like needs support getting off the platform again. It's temporary. He's not like that forever. But he is.
I was like, is he going para? Jeez.
No. He's recovering from surgery, I believe. But yeah, like he can barely walk, but he can still bench press.
Crazy, because like obviously you need leg drive, bracing, stability with your legs. So the fact he's doing that is absolutely crazy. Just adds to the legend. All right, let's move on to deadlifts. What do you guys have for deadlift, Eric?
Yeah, so I have this one. I do have an honorable mention, even though I didn't go male female. So obviously, I chose Natsu Chinye and him deadlifting the heaviest deadlift in IPF history. Just recently in October, pulling a massive deadlift. I think it was 916 pounds, 415.5 kilograms at the Avancus Houston. And it was, I think, really important for him to hit that after struggling previously and having the cramps that he had at Worlds. And, so it was just awesome to see such a huge deadlift. And my honorable mention is actually outside of the sport of powerlifting. And that is that Hafthor Bjornsson actually pulled and solidified himself, because previously you might remember that he got the heaviest deadlift and it was like on camera in his home gym during COVID, and there was a big debate as to whether or not it would have counted. But Hafthor pulled 510 at the Mutant World Deadlift Championship back in September. So pretty crazy when you think about it. So 510 is the heaviest deadlift that's ever been done. It's obviously strongman. It's not IPF standard, but it is still incredible. So,
Matt, what do you got, sir?
On the men's side, I have the same. I have Nanzo Chinye's 415.5. And on the women's side, I have a name that is probably not known to many who listen to this podcast, but her name will be known soon. And that is GB's own Akwin Onuoha, who just deadlifted an unofficial world record at the British Open Championships of 288 kilos, which again unofficially trumps Natalie Lalai's world record deadlift of 287.5 kilos. And I'll say this, if you haven't been paying attention on social media, Natalie Lalai has essentially announced that she is stepping away from the sport. I don't know if this is a permanent stepping away, but having said that, we do not anticipate her being at the World Championships next year in Dubai. But Akwin will have the opportunity to make that official in Dubai next June. And, I don't want to guarantee anything, but I would say that is a very high probability that she will add on to that world record in Dubai. And she's coached by my sidekick, Peach, Alex Pearson Jones. So phenomenal lifter, Quinn.
Crazy. Rory, what do you got?
So for my male pick, I have Nonso as well. Like I think it's quite hard to make many other picks there. For my female deadlift of the year, though, I do have Natalie. So she did deadlift 290 at a local meet in November, but my specific pick for deadlift of the year is the 287.5 she did at the World Games. Obviously doing that in an international stage, traveling quite a long way to be there, doing it under pressure. To me, that sort of makes that a better, a more impressive deadlift. Currently holds the 84 kilo world record deadlift, has traded that back and forth a few times between Sunita and Britt as well.
Okay, so here's what I'll throw, like Nonzo on the tested side for sure. I'll throw an honorable mention. John Hack pulled 413 at 87.7 kilo body weight, which is freaking crazy. Now 24 hour weigh-in, so he was not 87.7. Obviously, you got plenty of time in 24 hour, and you could do IV bags the whole nine. I don't know exactly the amount of weight he was when the day of, but still 413 is incredible for a man his size. So untested, I'm going to say John Hack. Tested, I'm going to say Nonzo. And on the women's side, I'm actually going to grab Heather Connor's 212.5. The significance of it, it is a world record. It is the biggest deadlift we've ever seen in her weight class, and she did it to win the world championship. So it checks a few boxes here. It checks, where was it done? It was done at the world championships. What's the significance in the weight class? It's a world record. What's the significance, bigger picture? It won her the world title. For me, it checked too many of the boxes, and I'm going to have to go Heather Connor route and say 212.5. Heather Connor, biggest deadlift of the year on the women's side. All right, fellas. Anything else we should add before we move on? All right, let's look at the. We're really getting down to it here, aren't we? Event of the year?
I think that's our last one, isn't it?
It is.
I think we've also got, are we doing local meet as well?
We'll do local meet as well.
I thought we cut that, but I could be wrong.
Right. I thought we nixed those as well, but.
Oh,
you know what? Just shoot from the hip. Shoot from the hip. Let's freestyle this. You guys aren't the freestyle bunch. The Christmas special, everybody's freestyling except for Joe B. But this one, you guys like freestyle. What the hell? That's not how we do things. All right, event of the year. Rory Lynch, what do you got?
Look, I think there are only two possible choices for meet of the year. The choice that I'm going with is Sheffield 2025. The spectator experience was phenomenal. And I think that is very important for these high-level events because, and I know that there are some people who disagree about this, but I think that the growth of powerlifting, like the long-term growth of powerlifting, is an important thing and something that we should be striving towards. And so making it so that the spectator experience is good, I think is an important part of that, right? People should be able to show up and enjoy the experience. And so Sheffield, 407,000 views on YouTube. You know, 500,000 people have watched that meet, which is just, I'm trying to visualize what 400,000 people looks like, and I like that's a medium-sized city that is, I don't know, like 1,000 of the largest jumbo jets that you can imagine full of people, right? Like that's
Keep going.
phenomenally large number of people have seen this meet.
Right.
They sold out the entire town hall. So it's 2,000 seats. Seats start at about £100. So that's there's a lot of people who are not willing to pay for this kind of thing and want to see it for free. But like it's pretty evident that there are people want to see this. It was so good that Sheffield 2026, at least the January edition, was 75% sold out in like 45 minutes after the tickets went on sale. Before we even know who the people lifting were. People were so excited by Sheffield 2025 that they were buying tickets for the next year when they didn't even know who was lifting. And so I think that sort of speaks to the quality of the event, the quality of the meet, the like level of excitement around that meet.
Yeah. I mean, 100% on everything you said. It was, I think we were at the banquet of Sheffield and they're like, yeah, I mean, it's sold out.
Yeah,
It's already done. It's already done.
Yeah.
We didn't even leave. Like the people who were working Sheffield 2025 did not even leave. Didn't even get through the banquet. It's like, okay, well, 2026,
Yeah.
that's a wrap. It's already
The
sold
beginning
out.
of the
It is-
banquet, they were like, it's half sold out. And then halfway through the banquet, they hopped up again and they're like, oh, sorry, guys, it's actually sold out already.
over. So you're too late. If you didn't buy a ticket already, it's crazy. Matt, what do you think?
So this category again, I'm a little confused. This is for event of the year, or are we kind of mixing in local and all that
Event.
stuff as well?
Let's just do event of the year.
Yeah. So it's I would, for the same reasons that Rory said, it's Sheffield. It's the all-star game, as I like to call it.
Is there any hipster pick coming out of you, Eric, or does it got to be Sheffield?
No, I have a huge hipster pick, and I understand it is that, and I do want to make a case because I think have a very English-centric bias here. It will not be remembered as a great meet. It will not be considered this way by many, but I think it is going to be a huge driver for the growth of the sport internationally, and that was World Games. There was 220,000 people who attended in person, and there was 178 million people viewing it. And this was the first time that Raw powerlifting was there. And the number of people in attendance for Raw powerlifting did rival Sheffield. And the experience of those who did go, even though it was a huge barrier in terms of visa for the US, even though it was based on formula, and all of the things that we say about it. And oh no, I'd rather be a world championship than World Games. And I think we're just potentially underestimating the impact that having 200 million people watch the games, and I don't know how many of those got captured to actually watch the powerlifting, but across some of these huge growing markets, when we're actually seeing a decrease in English speaking powerlifting over the last year, is actually really, really important. Right now, fitness and lifting is growing substantially in Asia, and I think having it hosted in China and getting it viewed by that many people and being promoted in that way and elevated to the World Games does something for raw powerlifting that we probably won't appreciate except for the coming years. So this may have been a far more important event than it seemed, even though we didn't get to have, obviously, six-pack Lapadat, the voice of powerlifting out there. It didn't collaborate with... Yeah, I mean, well, honestly, we know it could have been done so much better, but I think if we view this from what was the most badass rock concert I went to this year, 100% you guys are right. If we view it from my very hipstery pick, which I acknowledge, from which is going to have the most ripples and a positive impact on the sport that we may not be able to quantify until we look back a few years, like, oh, why did we see that resurgence, and why was it primarily in these other regions? I think we may be able to pin that on the fact that the World Games included raw powerlifting.
I don't think that's a hipster pick. Like I said, that like there's really only two potential choices here, right? And I think World Games was the second one, right? Like you say, it has the most. It may not have been the biggest rock concert of the year, but it has maybe the biggest cultural impact of the year. We'll know in 4 years looking back at it. But I think those are the two choices, right?
And
sorry, go ahead.
I'll just real quick, because I know, Ryan, you're going to go off about Sheffield as you normally do. God bless.
Yeah.
I misinterpreted the question. So I'm switching. I'm 100% with what Eric just said for all the reasons that he said, and being the only person that was actually in attendance. I can honestly say they're literally and figuratively, it's no comparison whatsoever to what the World Games was and is. Comparing it to Sheffield, it's almost not fair to either event. Respectfully, not fair to either event, because Sheffield happens in a single day, and the World Games took place over multiple days. And to Eric's point, the entire city and nation essentially stopped for this thing. So anyway, I misinterpreted the question, but I'll shift my answer to align with Eric for the World Games.
If we do straight up like multiple day events, etc., I'm going world championships and 10 toes down. It's going to be worlds like every year. If we're doing just like this event is a difficult one to hammer down as well. I'm going to take Sheffield over World Games head up. I'll tell you a couple of reasons why. I am not convinced that World Games helps powerlifting more than Sheffield does. I think Sheffield is the single biggest impactful event powerlifting has seen and continues to be. And I think metric wise, if you look at the spike in Googled powerlifting after Sheffield, the week after and after World Games, I think it still beats out World Games in terms of its impact on social media, its impact on reach. I think the quality of lifting is higher at Sheffield than World Games. World Games missed a lot of people. Sheffield did not. I like the format better at Sheffield due to a lot of it more head-to-head, kilo for kilo. World Games had that as well, but I like Sheffield all around better. I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not totally convinced that World Games is more impactful. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure Sheffield is. If you told me you can only back one for the strength of powerlifting in terms of growth, in terms of what it means to the community, in terms of what it means to powerlifting, in terms of what it means to, like I told you before, I listen to MMA podcasts. They never once mentioned World Games or powerlifting or World Games. They mentioned Sheffield in some of the performances that happen, and they're just mainstream guys who don't follow powerlifting. This is like MMA and boxing podcast.
Ryan,
But
do you speak Chinese?
I do.
Liar.
I will bust out AI and break out a video. Don't make me do it. But go ahead.
If it was 2023, I would agree with you. Because like the inaugural Sheffield and the impact of it, but World Games comes around every 4 years. I think again, yeah, you could argue that the Sheffield has a much larger impact on the English-speaking powerlifting world, but that is not the world. It's not even the largest part of the world. So I think that's
agreed
just an
on
important
that.
thing to.
It's
Agreed on that. Sorry, go ahead, Ray.
I was just going to say, and in terms of prestige, I mean, it's not even, what are we talking about here? We're talking about an invitational all-star game where there's no consequences for missing other than your wallet. You can go in and be cavalier. It's an invitational. I mean, come on. Worlds and World Games are far more prestigious than Sheffield. And if you like watching, and if you like watching people make lifts, then you need to focus on other meets, because Sheffield, we've had three make their final deadlifts at all three Sheffields, all three. So from a viewership experience, especially at the end when it's supposed to be coming to its climax, right? We have 3 lifters out of 12 make their final deadlifts, and that's happened every single time. So percentage of attempts made. And again, you can go there and you can throw caution to the wind and nobody cares, but you care when you lose a world championships. You care when you come off the podium at a world championships or world games. At Sheffield, it's like, whatever. I was invited to this exclusive dinner party, which is cool. Don't get me wrong, for all the reasons that you love it, Ryan. And I'm in agreement with you for those same reasons, but it's different. It's an invitational. So when legacies are written, when the history is written of someone's powerlifting career, I'm telling you, world titles and World Games titles are going to matter way more than Sheffield. You have to explain what Sheffield is. I mean, up until just a few years ago, unless you know your UK geography, nobody even knew that, that SBD was headquartered in Sheffield outside of the Brits. I mean,
I also
let me
have to
offer
say,
this.
I got to say one thing too, just to back up my boy, because we're gonna do the team beatdown on Ryan.
No, I ain't done yet.
I
I'm Drake
I-
20v1 right now.
I
Go ahead.
love what SBD is doing, but I will say that companies come and go. I really don't want SBD to go. But World Games has been around a pretty long time. World Championships has been around a pretty long time. And you know, I think when you have a company sponsored meet, we are talking about bottom line. And yes, I know the people behind it are powerlifters. They love it for the love, but what happens when your board gets to retirement age? What happens when someone else steps in? The mission of a World Games or World Championships is to provide a platform for the sport, for the lifters, and to be there to crown World Championships. The mission of a company is to sell equipment, and they also happen to do the Sheffield. And right now, it's a beautiful marriage that makes sense, right? We are the exclusive supplier. We're supporting the sport's supporting us. We love powerlifting. Powerlifting loves us. It's fantastic. And we're not at the point yet where it's, NASCAR with 10 different company stickers on a car. But we kind of are that with one. And I don't think we should fully get rosy colored glasses to think that the world has completely changed and it's only been 3 years. And I'm not saying that this is not a shot at Sheffield. This is just a human explaining the way that economics works, right? And SBD is doing nothing wrong. In fact, they're doing more than they need to, and I greatly appreciate it. But it may not be here in 4 years. And the fact that this era of lifters in the 2023 to 2020, whenever, maybe 2030, whenever, won Sheffield titles won't necessarily mean much in the era where the Sheffield goes away, except to people like us. We go, remember when we had the Sheffield? That was incredible. But a world game title or a world championship is going to be something that means something for the legacy of the sport. And I will now
Yeah.
let Ryan say things.
All right. So, a couple things. We're pushing together world championships and world games right now. In both of your guys' rebuttals right there. I need to parse those. World championships to me is always number one, is going to be number one, and I'm not going to argue against world championships for sure. If the world championships ever dropped and went away, I don't know what the hell would happen to our sport. World games, for all intents and purposes, wasn't around for the classic until right now, and we were healthier before. This year, we actually have a dip in participation. So we are still healthy. You take away world championships, I'm nervous. You take away world games, I'm not nervous at all. So we just had it. In terms of viewership, Matt had brought up missed lifts. I'm telling you right now, I've never heard anybody say they watched Sheffield and didn't enjoy. Viewership-wise, I've only heard it's the most fun to watch. It's the best event to watch, bar none. In terms of meaningfulness, I'll tell you right now, my opinion, I would 100% prefer to be a Sheffield champion than a World Games champion. I'm telling you this right now. And don't take my word for it. Ask all the lifters I pull out of World Games how much it meant to them. It means something to win World Games, but to win Sheffield, and Sheffield isn't just an invitational. You know how you get to Sheffield? You have to win a world title. Talk about the
Ryan,
heaviest of qualifications.
I am on your side with this one. Like I'm still calling Sheffield the meet of the year. I don't think looking at lifters pulling out of World Games is a good metric for whether it's an important meet or not, right? Like there was all kinds of complicating factors this year in particular.
Let me keep going in though. Let me keep going in though, because I don't want to rest on that. Yes, there was a lot more than just they didn't value World Games, why they pulled out. I agree on that. Let's also, if you wrap around powerlifting, I don't care if you ask people in the untested, if you ask laymen, if you ask just casual fans about World Games, they may or may not have answers for you. Let's be honest about that. I don't even know if the guys in the untested even paid attention to World Games whatsoever and cared. I don't know if casual fans were overly paying attention. Every single one of them watched Sheffield, and all of them knew what was going on in Sheffield. Full-on watch parties for Sheffield, and we know this. If we're just gauging our community of powerlifting, we could do hypotheticals to try to break down in 2030. Will Sheffield still be here? What does that mean? But let's throw hypotheticals aside and say what it is right now. If you're asking me in the end of 2025, I can't compare what World Games was to Sheffield in terms of the significance in our community, to the lifters, to the fans, viewing. People's awareness of the events is not even close in our community and outside of our community. people paying attention, watching it is not even close. I bet you if I stopped
I
powerlifting
think
fans and said, if I said, name me 3 World Games champions, I think people would struggle. If I said, name me highlights of World Games, I think people would struggle. I'm telling you right now.
I think outside of our community, I don't think that's true. I
Agreed.
think I think B, we are talking about a very North American English speaking perspective. And I will agree that if we're talking about power lifters from the US and Canada and other English speaking countries, that is the perspective. And that's why I called it a hipster pick, because I know that's 99.9% of people listening to this podcast. But I'm just saying, there's a wide world out there. There's more people than people who just speak English. And that has an important impact on the economics, which drives participation, which drives income, which drives sponsors, which drives the ability to even get things like a Sheffield. The sport itself has to get to a popular enough point for companies to go, let me invest in it, which is why Sheffield exists. So it is an important ecosystem rather than a necessarily comparison head to head. And I will leave it at that.
One
Yeah,
of
and the
the
fight. Oh, go ahead, Rory.
yeah, one of the big problems with the World Games this year was that the media coverage was appalling. And so like while the event is very, very cool and it probably brought in eyes that would not have otherwise been looking at powerlifting, which is an important part of it, right? Of the 400,000 people who watch Sheffield, what percentage of those would normally watch powerlifting? I don't know off the top of my head, but I imagine it's like high, like somewhere in the high double digits, right? Over 80% for sure. Whereas World Games, like there'll be people who go, "Oh, it's powerlifting on." Like, I wonder what that's about, and just like tune in, right? But the media for people who are already in the ecosystem was appalling, right? Like we didn't get the IPF Instagram account highlight reels that we normally get. We didn't get the post meet interviews that we normally get. We didn't get the coverage going into it that we normally get. And like that's not the fault of the IPF or the IPF media team or like nothing like that, right? Like that's to do with the fact that it was a multi-sport event that was run by like a particular group of people. It was in China, which has some like limitations with the way that like the internet is accessed and media is produced and consumed. Um, I think that that is a drawback for this year's particular World Games. I don't think that's a general drawback of the World Games, but like this year in particular, that is a real limitation for the enjoyment of people who already enjoy powerlifting.
I think that's all accurate as well. And I also want to say, World Games next version could be leveled up in terms of a lot of different ways too. 4 years, a lot can happen. So they could, who the frick knows? But go ahead, Matt.
No, just the final thing that I will add, Ryan, and because we don't want to continue to argue for hours. It's just I
Debate,
think
not argue. Debate, not argue.
debate. I think a lot of the viewpoints that you're expressing, and a lot of viewpoints expressed by people who share the same opinion as you, have never been to a World Games. And let me just say that. So you're the lens that you were looking through is obscured, jaded, whatever. You're not looking at the full picture because you've not yet been to World Games. I've been to 2 of them. And then just to clarify my statement, I wasn't insinuating that Sheffield was unwatchable. It's a phenomenal viewer experience. I was insinuating that the quality of the execution and the lifting and so forth at the end leaves a little bit to be desired because there's a ton of missed lifts. That's what I was saying. And there's no consequence for missing said lifts because again, it is an invitational. It is not essentially, it's not compulsory. You're not required to be there. So it's no big deal. You just miss out a little bit on your wallet and it's like, so what? So I didn't, but at a world championships, you're pretty ticked off, man. If you don't pick the right number and you don't execute and you fall off the podium or you miss out on a world championships. And that's where, to your point, Ryan, I think we agree on that. Legacies, in the history of powerlifting is written and banked on in careers and so forth on world championships mainly.
For sure, World Championships. I don't know
So
if we could speak for the lifters that they don't care. That's a big. I think you could say you would not value as much, but I think a lot of lifters do care if they're top 5, podium, Sheffield. I think they do. Like I do. I think it's. I don't see it as a throwaway. Who cares if I miss event like that. The way you describe it isn't the way I feel about it. I
Okay.
think there's probably a lot of lifters. If you're saying that's how they feel, I don't think you could do that.
I just
I
think that
respect your opinion, but
I just think they're more cavalier. That they're likely to be a little bit more reckless at a meet like that than they would be at a world championships. That's all I'm saying.
the way the game is played, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, because
Um,
because the world records and the money, all that is incentivized.
right.
So
They're
right,
incentivized to shoot
right,
from the hip, which kind of makes
right.
it exciting at times too. But
So yeah, fair
and
enough.
yeah. Oh, in terms of, I haven't been to a World Games, but I do know cultural impact on the community. I don't need to be there physically to feel the temperature of the room in the community.
But if the community is growing more from a World Games than a Sheffield, that's something we can't really see or feel. And yeah, 400,000 views is Sheffield, 220 million collectively for World
did not view
Games.
powerlifting.
I
Did
don't
not
know
view
how
power.
many. I don't know how many did. That metric
Uh,
I can't find. But I think the point is that the potential and exposure of a World Games, especially for given the location it was and the timing of it growing in the Asian market, I think is really important. And I think it's difficult to know that as English speakers or to feel that. And I think from now a feeling perspective, Ryan, I was at the inaugural Sheffield. Goosebumps. Crazy. I realized our sport arrived. People with lighters in the audience. I got on stage and I almost lost my ability to focus on coaching. But I think the Sheffield isn't a game changer. It's an indication of the game changing. The companies will now be investing. The sport is getting professionalized. And I'm so glad that Sheffield stepped up. But I think it is synergistic, like it's helping it grow, of course. But I think it is a sign of the times, which is fantastic. But I think in terms of when we sit down and figure out who is going to be in the IPF Hall of Fame, which one are they going to weight a little more when they decide who's going to be there? Is it a world game title? Is it, or, standing in a multi-sport stadium event that's the size of the Olympic, village and having your national anthem played? Or is it going to be, you know, an invitational meet? I think, like, I don't want to take anything away from Sheffield, but it's not the same.
I agree. It's not the
Amen.
same. I think Sheffield. I think Sheffield win is above anyone else's. I agree 100%. It's not the same. But you know what, guys? As this is happening, I swear to God,
Pete
I think this is a
Spencer.
great end.
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I absolutely love these kind of conversations that we could do this and have like these debates. It as it's happening, I'm like, I fucking love these guys. I love these
No,
conversations.
And
I love these debates
and
because we're good at articulating our points, can drive in our points, have completely opposing thoughts on it, flush them out. And this is why people got to tune in. If we all dance to the same beat, it's freaking boring. And it doesn't happen all the time. So when you get a good disagreement and we could swing around the table, dropping points on it, viewers will be, and listeners will be split 50-50, probably more in my direction. But anyways, but they're listening to it. And some people will be like, I agree with Six. Some people will be like, I agree with Matt and Eric. And you're going to read the comments being like, nah, this guy's crazy. It's this, now that. It's beautiful. This is why I like having you guys on here. And you'll be 10 toes down. Sorry, go ahead.
and I was just going to say, lastly, the people's opinions, as far as the lifters that I would respect more, are those who have competed at both of those events, right? So it's easy for Joe Bornstein to come run on a podcast like he did on the holiday Christmas special and say, "Oh, I don't really care about World Games. I care more about Sheffield." Well, just wait in 2029. If this happens in Germany and classic powerlifting is invited back, we have some of these people who presumably will have had the opportunity to compete at Sheffield by then, go to a World Games. Then perhaps you can give a more educated answer and opinion, having participated in both events. That's all I'm saying.
Time will tell. Time will tell.
Yep.
4 more years. God, the whole game could be in 4
Yeah.
years' time. my God.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Putting bikes
it'd be
back.
crazy. There might not be a Sheffield in 4 years.
Oh,
That's
Wild,
right.
huh?
easy with this. That's your prediction. We're sticking to you. If we're sticking predictions on there, Rory's got breakout star 2027. You got Sheffield events and blah blah blah.
I'm
Um,
just trying to get killed by Pete Spence. That's all I'm trying to do.
that's right. You're gonna end up in DMs, or I'm gonna get DMs anyways. I heard the podcast.
Of course you
Um,
will.
what do you guys have time to talk a little about 2026? What we thought we had a bit of a sidebar before. Are you? If you can, Eric, it's all good.
No, I do have to get going, guys. I'm sorry, but
Dog, I
it's
appreciate you
been an
coming on
honor.
here. Thank you for hopping in. Thank you for giving your opinions on things. Love the discussion as always. And yeah, we'll talk soon. I'll jump back in your DMs.
Love you guys. Come in late, argue, and then leave before it's over. That's my style.
I'll
All
see ya.
right, y'all. Adam bombing them out.
See ya. See ya. All right. Matt and Rory, terms of 2026, what do you guys think? We had a discussion. It somewhat snowballs off of the previous discussion we just had. How do we grow the sport? What are areas and markets we think can grow? Me and Rory actually were talking in the DMs about content and what nations we think are open markets for growth. And Rory was actually talking about China. I think you're saying Malaysia as well, Rory. Obviously, Asia, period. But I said, I think India is actually a market. Here's a couple things I'll say about India. I haven't been there for any of these comps, and I know not all these comps end up in open powerlifting, so sometimes tracking them is difficult. But I hear stories of competitions in India that are absolutely massive, running like 24/7 right around the clock. The amount of lifters is just crazy off the charts. And if you actually look at the social media engagement of some of these lifters out of India, we're talking 70,000 likes. These guys make Hana and Russell Orhe look small time on social media. It's insane. The social media traction, the size of the competitions, the amount of lifters. Difficult to track, but it's there. Now, Rory said, how do we get them into the world, onto the world stage, more representation, bring them into the powerlifting community more, get people out of India into all these other events and make them more on that stage and more intermixed? I don't know yet. Haven't bridged that gap myself, but it's interesting. And I think if somebody can, that would be an untapped market looking forward. If we could bring them into the fold, more representation at Worlds, more representation. But they're at Asian championships. But anyways,
Yeah,
what do
so
you
the
think, Matt?
countries that I'm
Or,
look
sorry, go ahead, Rory.
Yes, the countries that I'm looking at as being growth markets is like, firstly, powerlifting is like a niche sport, and I think it will always be to an extent a niche sport, right? We shouldn't be looking at sports like very popular sports like soccer, football if you're European, as like the standard for like the participation rates to be able to say that it's mature in a particular market, right? But when we look at countries like United States, Australia, France, what we see is relatively high participation rates on a per capita basis. Um, then we also see those countries like largely represented on the international stage as well. Like I would say that they're mature in the sense that they are mature for today. Not to say that powerlifting can't continue to grow there, because like I said, it is a very small sport. We're still talking like fractions of a percentage of people actually participating. But if you look at countries with very high populations, mostly non-English speaking countries who are not represented internationally or are only just starting to be represented internationally, like those are the countries that I think we have the most room for growth in. So I think the countries that I would be looking at are countries like China. They've started sending international teams, but their international teams are small. It's a huge country, right? Second biggest population wise. There is room for there to be way more powerlifters in China, particularly with the space with weightlifting there, right? Which is, weightlifting is a big sport in China, and powerlifting is kind of adjacent to that. And so I expect we see some spill over there. I also think that we should be looking at countries like Malaysia, large population, starting to see some, little bit of international representation, but not much. India, similar, very rarely at the World Championships, but often at the Asian Championships, or or the APAC competition. Similar for Sri Lanka, right? Like they had a few lifters at the APAC competition, but not very many. And I don't think I've ever seen a Sri Lankan lifter at the World Championships. Brazil, it's been a while since I've seen many Brazilian lifters, but again, enormous population, huge potential for growth there. So I'm looking at these countries with predominantly non-English speaking countries, where we don't see them at Worlds. We see them sort of dabble in their regional competitions occasionally. These are the countries that I think we have the most room to grow an audience.
So first off, yeah, I agree. Me and you actually talked about this. I want to get Matt's impression on some of this, but like Matt, who's been in powerlifting forever and a day, but China, I agree. Barbell, strength sport, Olympic lifting, they love their Olympic sports. Me and you talked, Rory, that the problem is powerlifting is not in the Olympics, and they're more the push from the government funding, et cetera, is more towards Olympic sports. So I think that'll be tough. Although it seems like, yeah, barbell sport, they love Olympic lifting. Powerlifting's been tough to get big over there. Whereas that's why I gave India, because powerlifting actually is big there. Social media wise, they got massive traction. Competition wise, tons of people showing up. We just got to figure out how to bring them more into the fold. And us over there as well, we'll see. And we actually talked about how podcasts, having you click the button and all of a sudden it automatically translate into whatever language you want. That kind of technology is coming with AI. Once these kind of technologies come, I think a lot of the language barriers will then be taken down, and we'll see the whole sport open up. And that's literally right around the corner. And once that happens, oh my gosh, I'm excited to see what happens. So in terms of those two, but let me just say, you know what? We'll put a pin in there, and then we'll talk about what we're appearing right now, like France having a nationals with 1,000 lifters. Insane. That's USAPL numbers. That's insane. France is turned on. Britain going a different model in terms of their nationals. We'll ask Matt about that. There's different ways to approach this. And France and Britain moving in two different directions with it. However, those two nations, the stars and the lifts, the popularity of their lifters and the quality of lifters is definitely rising and rising fast from those two nations. And they have nations very close to them, all surrounding them, that can rise with the rising tide, like Italy, Spain. But anyways, Matt, what are your thoughts on the emerging nations? And then we'll talk about the nations that have risen in 2025.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything that you guys have both said. So I don't have a ton to add. I think India would be that market. I mean, look, they've taken over the world in terms of population size. Right now, they're almost at 1.5 billion. So where China used to be the most populated country in the world, it's now India, with China sliding in right behind them. And to your point, Ryan, powerlifting hasn't taken off as much in China as we would have liked to have seen, because weightlifting is the thing there, and it being a state sponsored sport and an avenue into the Olympics and so forth. So hopefully, India will take hold of that. We have seen on the equip side, India used to send teams, and I'm very familiar with them sending teams in the past, but obviously haven't seen them send full or even partial teams really on the classic side. So there's hope there. I also want to mention Brazil. I think Rory mentioned them. I mean, so we have lifters in the past who crossed over, mainly female. We had Ana Rosa Castellane from Brazil, and also we had Vilma Ochoa from Ecuador, right? I believe she was from. And so we've had some representation of some really star power lifters on both of those ladies did classic and equipped. It would be nice to see a resurgence in this South American market. That's one of the regions that's just kind of, for lack of a better word, kind of lied dormant for a while. We haven't seen any lifters come out of that area. So I think there's some untapped potential of getting some lifters back into the fray from South America. And also, I'll just mention Mexico. Mexico is the 11th most populated country in the world. We have seen in the past, I do remember some strong lifters coming from Mexico who competed at NAPF meets. Once again, that was primarily equipped, never, have sent a fully fledged team, but would be nice to see, a market like that, dipped into and see some representation at some NAPF meets, and them being so close, being on the border of the United States, it would be nice if, I don't know, if there could be some sort of partnership or some of us spreading some love and seeping out some education, if you will, because I think a lot of this starts with education, getting into high schools, working with youth, bringing the sport, we've got to bring the sport to people in other ways that fall outside of our normal way of thinking, right? Just presenting a live stream to them or something. We've got to educate students and the youth on how powerlifting is beneficial, for the mind and body and spirit and soul and all of these things, that doing these compound multi-joint movements with a barbell, spill over into other sports. And so I think that's one of the ways to reach some of these markets, is to turn kids onto these things. And I think there's just some possibility there in the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, I think Brazil also is a market for sure. I forgot to double
I mean,
back on that.
Yeah, they're the seventh most populated country in the world. So again, if we're just looking at sheer population, we need to tap into these countries that are populated and presumably have some resources available, financially to do things.
I will point out Open Worlds is scheduled for Brazil 2027, and juniors are scheduled for China in 2027. So two of the markets that we've just been speaking about.
Wow.
So I think that those are good opportunities as well.
Great.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. I thought New Zealand was on the list as one of the bids.
It was. There was. I think there was three bids. I think there was Lake Tahoe in the United States. There was somewhere in New Zealand, and there was Brazil. And Brazil looks like has it confirmed now.
Oh wow,
2027.
That's
China
so
2027 for junior, Rory.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
Oh,
that's a big year for 2027, huh? That could be a potential growth year for 2027.
That's great.
So Ribeirão Preto in Brazil for opens, and then Haining in China for the juniors. Very exciting.
Yeah. There's some very densely populated countries. I mean, we've seen some Argentinian lifters occasionally. We've seen some come from Colombia, but Brazil, Ecuador, it'd be really cool. Venezuela, they used to send teams to the equip side, but it'd be really nice to your point, Ryan, to see them, start to come over to the classic side where, powerlifting is clearly more popular.
Well, you put it in their side of the world like Brazil, that's where you'll see the participation rates raise. And let them have an amazing experience and be like, okay, let's come back again. What are we doing? Why did we let this fall off?
Yep.
Those are important markets. I like that. That's why the World Championships has to keep moving in terms of where it is in the world and start helping grow those nations. So 100% agreed on there, fellas. Let's talk about what we saw this year. Now, France, holy freaking smokes, with 1,000 people showing up and competing. French nationals, if you guys were paying attention to the highlights, at one point, France was led by all these women who became world class, and the men's side had needed to rally and catch up. Now the men's side is thriving as well, and France has very much turned on as a powerhouse nation. But not only France in 2025, and if you look at the French nationals, they got some world-class lifters there all throughout. It's battles. It's not just one person squeezing through. But the UK just recently had their British nationals, and UK is absolutely stacked as well. But interesting, Matt, you were explaining UK went about their nationals more as, so if I'm to understand this correct, they only had a very select amount of people invited to the nationals. Like the qualifying standards was extremely difficult. Basically, all of their nationals was a prime time.
That's right. So essentially what they did in 2024 last year was they took the model of France or USA Powerlifting USA Powerlifting, which was known for these mega nationals, right? They essentially, they had the largest British championships that they've ever had. And I don't recall the exact number, but it was I want to say it was, let's just say 400-ish, but they had a lot of lifters. It was their biggest championships to date. And it was kind of this all-inclusive thing. And the production value was super high. White Lights Media helped run the meet, and it was just phenomenal. It was outstanding. And then this year in 2025, they literally just flipped the script. And so they trimmed all the fat, if you will, and they made it essentially, they made the qualification standards much, much higher to get into nationals, much harder. And it essentially just became almost primetime flights, if you will, where they were only allowing, I believe, 14 lifters, essentially the maximum that you could have per weight class. Now, clearly, in some of the underrepresented weight classes like 59 and 47 and 52s, and some of those classes at the extremes, we did not see full representation. But if I've done my math right, the British Championships that I just attended in Birmingham only had 174 lifters. So it was a much smaller version. It occurred at one of these fitness expos, this gigantic convention center, if you will, an event center. And it was fantastic. It was run very well, but it was just very, very high level lifters. Again, the production quality, the production value was great. The live stream I heard was outstanding. Of course, Amelia was there on the live stream commentary doing her thing. But it was much in contrast to 2024 in that it was just a trimmed down version. And I think when you talk to the lifters and you talk to people in the powerlifting community, you get these varying opinions of what a national should be. So in theory, a national championships are used to determine and select your national teams to compete at the world championships. So if you're just looking at it through that lens, you're saying, look, yeah, we only need one flight per weight class. You know, I mean, in some weight classes, we don't need 14 people. Gosh, we probably only need 5 or 6 to really determine the people who have a shot to come on a national team. And that's fine. And that works great. However, I think a lot of us will admit that the community aspect of powerlifting is one of the things that we value most, is the community in and of itself. And so then having these larger national championships, these more inclusive national championships, where it's just this one big, huge powerlifting party, if you will, where more people are invited, there's benefits to that too, right? In terms of the growth of the sport, the exposure, you're getting more people there. So I don't know what the answer is. I mean, I think some federations have tried to have their cake and eat it too, where they invite a large amount of people and then they have the premier primetime sessions or the A group sessions or whatever you want to call them, which makes it feel more exclusive and aggregates more eyeballs toward the, premier tip of the spear exceptional lifters. So again, I'm not sure exactly what's the correct answer. I think both styles or modes, if you will, have their merit. But it's just an interesting conversation to have, depending upon which side you see.
Rory, what side do you see?
Well, I don't think I see either side right now. I think it's a strategic decision that individual federations need to make. And I think on the whole, I was going to say that that's something that powerlifting federations are bad at strategy, but to be honest, everyone's bad at strategy, so that's not surprising. Separate conversation. Anyway, it's a strategic decision that powerlifting federations need to make. Is like what are we trying to achieve as a federation? And I think some federations will be saying, hey, our job is to send the best possible team to the World Championships, and we are going to structure our calendar and our nationals in a way that facilitates that. And I think that that's a perfectly reasonable way to do it. You could also say, or these federations could also say, our purpose is to cultivate the largest amount of powerlifting in the country as possible, or cultivate the best lifting experience in the country as possible. And all of those slight permutations allow you to make slightly different decisions about how you structure these events. So like and there's more than just how many people go to nationals, right? It's also things like how is the calendar structured is a reflection of what you decide is important. So we'll take Taiwan as an example. In Taiwan, nationals is in like October or something, but in sort of March-ish, they have a team selection event for the internationals for the year. And so your team selection has nothing to do with your performance at nationals. Like if you want to go to internationals, you go to this team selection event and you do the best possible. And so clearly the decision that they're making there is that sending teams to internationals, that's clearly not the top priority. And you can see that reflected by the way that they've structured the calendar. Whereas if you look at something like Powerlifting America, their nationals is specifically timed so that if you win nationals, you have about enough time to recover and then come back and then go to worlds, right? Like it's timed like that. And so you look at that and you go, okay, this is structured to send a team to worlds, right? Like that is the point of the way that this is structured. And I don't know what the right answer is. I think probably the right answer means that people need to decide what's actually important. And there's a number of ways that you can measure that. And there's probably, I was going to say there's no wrong answer. There probably is wrong answers. But there's probably not a single right answer. Maximize participation, perfectly good answer. Give people the best possible lifting experience, perfectly good answer. Be the most competitive possible internationally, perfectly good answer. Like all of those answers are fine, in my opinion. And nations need to decide for themselves which one of those is the most important.
One thing that I would worry about in terms of the British model would be inside your nation to grow the popularity of the sport inside your nation. The Nationals is the biggest event, and inviting everybody to that party, not everybody, but having a great participation at it means a lot. I know, Matt, you're in the US and you remember what it's like when USAPL was full throttle in terms of their participation, in terms of membership numbers, was massive in its peak. And then the Nationals was huge. It was like
Right.
everyone was there, everyone would go. And the prime time was a prime time. So that's where really the elite national lifters were. But to
Right.
have the daytime lifters there made it a mega meet. And I understand it's difficult. There's other
It,
concessions I don't have to worry about in terms of pulling off this event, having enough officials, having the venue. I get all that. I'm just saying that offering that in a nation, I think helps grow the participation because everybody puts it on their calendar. Well, you got to be there on that date. You're not missing it. It's not an international, it's in your own country. And I think that was one of the reasons why USAPL grew and swelled to that magnitude because they had this mega nationals that they had.
yeah.
And so my fear would be, again, I'm not the one who has to do the venues, the officials, whatever, but my fear would be if they trim it down to just the prime time, if you do that too long, too often, so all of these lifters inside of your nation don't have one pinnacle goal, one pinnacle event on the calendar that they're all looking towards. I I worry about what the
Right. Yeah.
overall arching.
I
That's
think
the one thing, but I'm not sure.
one big problem with the mega national structure was that it actually made individual lifters insignificant. And so like some people worked really, really hard to get to like an event like Mega Nationals. And if I remember correctly, if you weren't part of the prime time session, there were 4 or 5 platforms going at a time. And so like you could work really, really hard, get to
Yeah.
nationals,
Right.
nothing. You don't get eyes on you, you don't get media attention, like you get nothing because you're one of what was it like 1,200 people at the biggest one? And so
It's
like unless you're in the prime time,
right.
it's
Yeah.
you're
It
in a powerlifting competition mill where they're just like churning through as many people as possible, and that experience is really bad for that, or maybe not really bad. Maybe that experience is like bland for that person. So
yeah.
like I do what you're saying, Ryan, and I do see that having nationals be an achievable goal for people is important. And so like if they're saying, hey, look, we're inviting 6 people, and our each flight is 2 weight classes put together, and you got to be top 6 to get invited, I'd be like, like maybe you need to give a couple more people a chance at that, right? But if you go too far the other direction and just like anyone can show up at nationals, and particularly
Yeah.
if anyone can show up at nationals when you've got a big federation, it kind of detracts from the actual experience. And so, in my opinion, getting some sort of middle ground between those, where it's an event that's of a manageable size, that people, it's actually special to be there. And then if your federation is of the size where 1,000 people want to be there and you can't handle having 1,000 people there, that you also have other events that have some significance for them, for the people who don't make it there, or as other things. And so like, I don't know, you could do state championships, you could do sort of like regional invitationals, you could do smaller money meets, like make other things that are worthwhile going to. So it's not just, you do nationals or you're nobody.
Matt, you're going to say something, sir?
Yeah, no, I agree with Rory. There's got to be, you have to be able to strike a balance somewhere in the middle, right? I think that's, the obvious answer is going to nationals needs to mean something. It shouldn't be just, you have a total and you get to rock up to nationals. I mean, that's not fair either. It's disrespectful, right? Going to a national championship should mean something. By the same token, to grow the sport, to foster that community, you need the bodies, but in order to have the bodies, you've got to have the infrastructure, and you've got to have the people and the support staff, and that therein lies the problem. It's 20% of the cows produce 80% of the milk, as my father would say. And so, and you run into this in various other organizations where they're volunteer based. And so these are the problems that a lot of these organizations and federations are confronted with. It's volunteers doing the lion's share of the work. Nobody's getting paid. And so it's, anyway, that's all.
That's why I was saying, easier said than done for me to be like,
yes,
like a big fat nationals multiple days. Like that is, exactly. But I do like France. Oh my gosh, how much confidence do you get in the nation when they churn out? Like, it's intimidating when you look at somebody's nationals and you hear numbers like that, like 1,000 lifters are there. Yeah, be careful. You're going to have some absolute stars emerging when it's that deep a field. And the health of the sport in that nation cannot be denied if you're having that kind of output. Like, that's crazy. That is a massive nationals that they have. And you look at the numbers coming out of some of these lifters at this recent France. So if France does that, in neighboring nations like Italy, Spain, who have some stars, start turning out nationals like that. Like, Italy already has stars, particularly on the women's side, very much like France a few years ago. If Italy levels up across the board with their women and then their men start rising to the occasion as well, yeah, like there's still some growth to be had in these European nations. Absolutely. There's still some growth to be had. And we thought, did France cap out? Did France already reach its peak? Is France coming back down? I don't think so. You look at people like Turbo Tiff, you look at their nationals and take a look at the talent they have coming up. Nah, France is still on the rise. You don't have 1,000 people at your nationals and you're not going to get some stars emerge. They take a look at the national results and they got some people emerging, and it's going to continue. And I hope we do have some more growth in these European nations. I know Europe's been in powerlifting for a long time, and it's a mature market as a whole, but there's still some nations that haven't fully matured, including France, which is interesting. And the UK as well, I think. I think UK is going to start leveling up as well. But fellas, all right, we're getting close to 3 hours here. We think we did a good year end. Look back at 2025. Look ahead at 2026. I think we didn't do too shabby. Much appreciated, guys. We always put on a hell of a show. People look forward to these holiday specials. We have the silly one for Christmas, but we have the more serious one for the year end with you fellas, where we come in full tact. And I remember when Pert came on, I remember him asking to come on these, like one of these holidays or one of these just special ones anyways, not as like an athlete, but as like a co-host. And he asked, can I go on with you fellas? And I'm like, with like Rory, Matt, Eric Helms? And he said, yeah, I want to go on with the big boys. That's how we referred to you guys, because you come on, you better be ready. You better have your facts in row. You better be able to be 10 toes down and debate it out. And people love it. And I love it. And I'm super appreciative of having you guys on this podcast to come on here and have these discussions. I know how lucky I am to be able to hop in that group chat, organize it, and have people like you guys who know the sport like you do, can articulate your points like you do, and we can have these type of discussions and debates. It's amazing. I don't take it for granted whatsoever. And it's got to be said. It's not said enough. I got to convey it, especially on the year end when you're looking back at the year that was. So appreciate you dudes. I love you guys. It's been years now we've been doing this. It's going to be years more, and I look forward to it. When's the next time I'm going to see you guys, by the way? Are you guys going to Sheffield? Either one of you?
I suppose you want to come to Bench Worlds. Do you want to do you, Ryan?
I will not be making it to Bench World, sir. All right. Well, maybe it's at the World Championships then. Rory, are you going to be there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Sheffield's next. Then Powerlifting American Nationals. You'll be there, Ryan.
US Nets. I'll see you around then, Matt.
I'll be at Euros, and then I'll be in Dubai as well. So yeah.
Perfect.
Run the circuit.
We're going to see each other good and plenty. All right, fellas, listen. Much, much appreciated. And as per usual, for everybody listening, please do subscribe, give us high ratings, and until next time, 6-pack Lapadat, 6 up, and we are out.